Every night, I started to indulge in having sex with her. When Lin Mian woke up, her body felt like it was about to fall apart. The bathroom door opened, and a tall, slender man walked out. Lin Mian stared, somewhat dazed, even forgetting to snap out of it. What are you looking at? Want to go for another round? Chapter 1, Want to Sell Again. When Lin Mian woke up, her body felt like it was about to fall apart. It took her a long while before she had the strength to get up from the bed. The blanket slipped off, revealing her body covered in kiss marks. The bathroom door opened. A tall, slender man walked out. He had a towel wrapped around his waist, his upper body lean and toned, with visible 8-pack abs and faintly discernible Adonis lines. His short black hair was still dripping with water. Lin Mian stared at him, dazed, even forgetting to snap back to reality. What are you looking at? Want to sell yourself again? The man spoke, lighting a cigarette from the bedside and taking a drag, glancing at her sideways. His handsome features and chiseled face stood out. Despite his bare upper body, the air of restraint about him didn't diminish in the slightest. Lin Mian quickly averted her eyes, not daring to look at him any longer. His lack of restraint last night had left her body aching, as though her bones had been ground to pieces. The first time was on the sofa, the second was in the bathtub. The bathtub was hard and uncomfortable, the experience far from pleasant. It hurt a lot. Embarrassed, Lin Mian got off the bed, picking up her clothes from the floor and putting them on. She had taken them off herself last night, and they were still perfectly intact, with no signs of tearing. Lin sat at the head of the bed, leisurely smoking, watching her dress with slow and steady movements. Because of her discomfort, her actions were somewhat stiff and awkward, giving off a sense of inexperience. By the time he had finished half a cigarette, Lin Mian was fully dressed. Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly stopped in her tracks and turned to the man. "You haven't paid me yet," she said. Lin lifted his eyes to glance at her, his voice husky from smoking. "How much do you want?" he asked. Lin Mian didn't know the going rate for something like this, and she wasn't familiar with the matter. Blushing, she said, "Just pay me the market price." Lin laughed, his cold gaze scanning her up and down before his lips curled slightly. "Market price," he scoffed. "With a body as underdeveloped as yours, you're not worth much. But since you're a university student, how about 200 yuan for the night?" Lin Mian froze for a second, then fell silent, pursing her lips without saying a word. Even though she was inexperienced and had never done this before, she knew that this man was mocking her. Seeing her reddening eyes, on the verge of tears, like a bullied little bunny who didn't dare to retaliate, Lin stopped teasing her. He pulled out his phone, calmly showing her his business card. "Scan me, I'll transfer the money to you later." Lin Mian's eyes lit up. She quickly took out her phone and scanned his QR code, adding him on WeChat. His profile picture was pitch black, just like his personality, simple and cold, with nothing else to indicate who he was. Lin Mian worried for a moment, wondering if this was a burner account. She was afraid he wouldn't pay, or worse, that he would really just transfer her 200 yuan. After all, last night was her first time. It should be worth a lot more, right? Hesitantly, she gripped the door handle and softly said, at least 10,000. After speaking, she didn't dare look at his expression. She mentally noted the door number before hobbling out like a scared rabbit. Lin watched her retreating figure, a chuckle escaping his lips. 10,000. Quite the bold demand. Clearly, she was inexperienced and knew nothing, yet last night she had made him lose control, over and over again. Pale skin, long legs, a slim waist, soft breasts. Most importantly, she was obedient, submissive, soft, and easy to bully. Such a naive little bunny, pure like a blank sheet of paper. He wondered how she had the guts to sell herself. Half conscious, she had even dialed his number and said, "Are you interested in buying eggs?" Chapter 2, She's a Virgin. At first, Lin thought he had received the wrong call, so he frowned and hung up. Unexpectedly, the same number called again. He hung up several times, and each time, the call came back. Irritated, Lin finally picked up the phone, and on the other end came a soft, delicate voice. "Sir, I'm serious. I'm 20 years old, healthy, young, and clean. I'm studying at a university in North City, and my eggs are surely of good quality. Please consider it." Lin paused slightly, his brows furrowing even deeper. A college student who still believed in such scams. In a cold tone, he replied, selling eggs is illegal. Don't you know that? There was silence on the other end, no response for a long time, as if his words had stunned her. Only soft, faint breathing could be heard, as though she was nervous or struggling with something. Before she could say anything, Lin decisively hung up. Walking out of the operating room, he took off his isolation gown and tossed it into the trash bin. He had just finished a few minor appendectomy surgeries and had a headache. The hospital had been severely understaffed lately, so even a doctor like him, who usually handled complicated internal cases, had been assigned several surgeries, keeping him busy the entire day. As he passed another department, Lu Jibai had just gotten off duty and casually slung an arm over Lin's shoulder, raising his eyebrows in greeting. What a coincidence, Dr. Shi. Finally caught you. Let us go have a drink after work. Lin glanced at him and replied in a cool tone, you've got such dark circles under your eyes, you look cursed. If you keep drinking, you'll drop dead from exhaustion. Don't even mention it. I'm stressed out, Lu Jibai complained as they walked. I just saw a girl who sold her eggs. Her ovaries are necrotic, and her uterus is severely damaged. She'll never be able to have kids again. She was crying her eyes out in the ward. My head's killing me. Lin paused, suddenly recalling the phone call from earlier. The girl's voice had been soft and delicate, with a hint of youthful naivety. Her stammering tone revealed how nervous she was, yet she seemed genuinely serious. She was only 20, still inexperienced in the ways of the world. If she had come across an advertisement about selling eggs, she might have been naive enough to believe it. His gaze darkened as he twirled his car keys and walked into the elevator. He wasn't a saint, and he didn't have the energy to deal with every troublesome situation. People who put themselves in such positions were beyond the help of any doctor. In the underground parking lot, Lin got into his car and started the engine. Outside, Lu Jibai was knocking on the car window, asking, coming for drinks or not? No. Lin uttered the word, stepped on the gas, and sped off in his Range Rover without looking back. At 10 p.m., the same number called again. Lin was in the shower. His phone, left on the bathroom counter, vibrated with a buzz. Without checking the screen, he casually swiped to answer the call. Sir, I'm being sincere. I really need the money. I want to report you to the police, and I promise to keep everything confidential. Please give me a chance, okay? The familiar female voice came through again, but this time with a sobbing tone, as if she were facing some urgent crisis. That kind of desperate and anxious tone was something Lin often heard outside the ICU at the hospital, people struggling but unable to do anything due to a lack of money. Lin leaned out to glance at the familiar number, a trace of impatience flashing across his face. He figured some idiot had probably written his number incorrectly on one of those scam advertisements, or the girl had dialed the wrong digit. Either way, the call had mistakenly come to him. He wasn't interested in meddling in others' business. He raised his hand, intending to hang up and block the number, but suddenly recalled what Lu Jibai had said earlier in the day. Her ovaries are necrotic, her uterus is damaged, and she'll never be able to have children. Lin's tone shifted, and he coldly asked, are you a virgin? The girl on the other end clearly froze. What? Didn't you say you're clean? Are you a virgin? If you are, we can talk. If not, forget it. Lin deliberately tried to scare her. Lin Mian remained silent on the phone for a full 30 seconds, her face burning with embarrassment. After a long while, her soft, barely audible voice came through. Yes. Lin stopped. The water continued to flow down from above, now turning cold as it ran from his head to his feet. Lin felt a wave of irritation rising inside him. No amount of cold water could wash away his restlessness. He took a deep breath and spat out a few cold words. Let's inspect the goods. Chapter 3, Red Ears, Blushing Deeply. How do I prove it? The girl's voice stammered, as if trembling. She was trying her best to suppress the unease in her tone. Where are you? Lin asked casually. Lin Mian hesitated before slowly answering, a university in North City, School of Architecture. An architect? Yes, Lin Mian buried her face in her arms, her face flushed red. She felt like she had brought shame to this identity. Lin turned off the water, grabbed a towel to dry his hands, and walked out of the bathroom, his long, slender fingers gripping the phone. He wasn't the type to bring people to his home. But it was late, and he didn't feel like going out. He was gambling on whether this naive girl would actually come. If she did, he'd give her a good scare. So, he gave her his apartment address, Bafang City, Building 6, Unit 1009. Come over. Lin Mian's face burned hot, and even her neck and ears were flushed, the red so intense it looked like blood would drip. She checked the time her dormitory lights would be out, and the doors locked in half an hour. She hesitated. But her mother's words kept echoing in her ears. We fed and clothed you, scraped together every penny to send you to college, and now that you're a university student, you won't even bring money home. All you do is cry about being broke. You're not even as good as Song Xiaoman next door, who only graduated from middle school and sends home 10,000 yuan every month from working. What good are you? Lin Mian bit her lip. When she remained silent for a long time, their voice on the other end suddenly sneered. If you don't have the guts, then stop dreaming of making big money. Go wash up and sleep, architect. Lin Mian clenched her fists and, steeling herself, said, I'll go. She was sitting in the dark dorm hallway, alone. Taking a deep breath, she made up her mind. I'll go. Wait for me. Bafang City wasn't far from a university. It was only 4 stops by bus and 2 stops on the subway. Following the navigation, Lin Mian boarded the last subway of the night. The carriage was empty, with only the broadcast announcements breaking the silence. After just a few minutes, she arrived at her stop. Once outside the complex, it took her a while to find Building 6. It was a high-end apartment, and the elevator required a keycard. Lin Mian sat in the waiting area of the lobby, pulled out her phone, and called Shalin. I'm here, but I can't get up. The elevator needs a card. When Shalin received the call, he hadn't expected her to actually show up. He remained silent for a while before, almost against his better judgment, saying, wait. Then he hung up, threw on some casual clothes, and headed downstairs. In the lobby, there were a few scattered people sitting on sofas and chairs in the waiting area. Shalin scanned the room and spotted a girl sitting in the corner. She wore a plain white t-shirt, loose jeans, and black canvas shoes, an ordinary outfit. Her body language radiated nervousness, making her look both pure and foolish. He stepped forward. Lin Mian had been sitting there for a while, feeling uneasy as she took in the grand surroundings of the high-end building. She straightened her back, trying to appear more composed. The next second, a male voice sounded above her head, 6,529. Instinctively, Lin Mian looked up and was met with a sharply defined, handsome face. He stood before her, one hand in his pocket, looking down at her with an imposing presence. He was tall, with a clean, fresh scent of body wash mixed with the distinct scent of masculinity. Lin Mian froze for 2 seconds, not fully processing what was happening. Then, she heard the man coldly repeat himself in a calm, detached tone. Phone number ending in 6529. Virgin. Chapter 4, Take it off, quickly. Lin Mian's face turned instantly red. Her head buzzed, and her body began to stiffen. She hadn't expected the fierce-sounding man on the phone to look so refined and clean. Just standing there, he was so handsome that it was hard to look away. However, the cold and distant aura he radiated made her hesitant to approach. He seemed to have just taken a shower, his short hair still slightly damp, and his eyebrows and eyes carried an air of aloofness and laziness. Lin Mian nodded, her face flushed. It's me. Follow me. The man uttered 2 words and turned to walk towards the elevator. Lin Mian stood up awkwardly, her mind buzzing as she followed him. This place was designed as a high-end apartment complex, with 2 units per floor. As they exited the elevator, Shalin unlocked the door with his fingerprint. With a beep, he opened the door, his tone somewhat nonchalant. Come in. Lin Mian swallowed hard and cautiously stepped inside. The room felt very spacious to her, around 200 square meters, with simple decor in a grey and white color scheme. The details exuded a subtle, luxurious taste. She had heard that the houses here were very expensive, housing elite professionals. Just looking at the lavish facilities in the lobby, ordinary people couldn't even imagine how many years it would take to afford one. Lin Mian stood timidly at the entrance, feeling as small as a mouse. Shalin closed the door, opened a cabinet at the entrance, and tossed her a pair of disposable slippers. Lin Mian obediently took off her shoes and put her feet inside. As she walked into the living room, the man sat on the sofa, reclining slightly, with his legs crossed in a relaxed manner. His deep-set eyes scrutinized her body up and down, without concealing his blatant curiosity. Lin Mian felt like a product being appraised for sale. Since he didn't say anything, she didn't dare to move recklessly. She stood obediently in the living room, her head bowed. Until he uttered 3 words. "Take off your pants." "What?" Lin Mian stiffened all over. "Don't know what prove it means." Shalin raised his eyes to look at her. "If you don't prove it, how will I know if you're a virgin?" Lin Mian bit her lip, overwhelmed by an unprecedented sense of humiliation. Her hand trembled as it rested on her waistband. Her mind was a jumbled mess, buzzing loudly although she couldn't make any sound. It felt as if her head was deafeningly noisy. The man's gaze pierced through her, his pupils dark and penetrating. He even changed his posture, casually watching her every move with an indifferent intensity. Lin Mian's heart raced, her face hot, as if all the blood in her body rushed to her head. Her hands fidgeted nervously. Shalin toyed with a glass of water and began to explain to her in a slow, relaxed manner. "After egg retrieval, you might experience bloating, nausea, vomiting, ovarian enlargement, difficulty breathing, and other discomforts that you will have to bear yourself. Severe cases can lead to infections like hepatitis B, syphilis, AIDS, etc. But as a student from a university, you should be more aware than I am. I shouldn't have to remind you." Lin Mian's face turned pale as a sheet. Her hands trembled even more violently. "Take it off, quickly. I'm in a hurry." Shalin placed the glass on the coffee table with a dull thud, making it impossible to gauge his emotions. Lin Mian gripped her waistband tightly, holding the buckle for a long time without daring to let go. The next second, she suddenly recoiled. "I changed my mind. Sorry, I'm leaving now." She hurriedly turned to escape, trembling as she grabbed the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. The door was locked from the inside. Lin Mian's heart leaped into her throat. At that moment, Shalin strolled over leisurely, his tall, imposing figure effortlessly pushing her against the door. He moved closer, his handsome face just an inch away from hers, exuding a strong sense of pressure. "Changed your mind? Too late. You can't just say you're selling and then not sell. This world doesn't work that way." Chapter 5, Do You Want Something Else? Lin Mian's pupils constricted, her face alternating between green and white, her back pressed tightly against the door. "I really regret it. Please let me go, sir. I promise I won't come back again." Shalin looked down and saw her tear-filled eyes, her eyelids red and her nose tinged pink, looking pitiful. He coldly asked, "You really won't sell?" "And no, I won't sell," Lin Mian hurriedly shook her head. "And you won't sell in the future?" Lin Mian could no longer hold back her tears and trembled as she spoke. "I won't sell again. Please let me leave. I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life." Shalin tilted his head, his knuckles tapping her shoulder twice. She was so thin it felt like there was only bone, with hardly any flesh. He shifted his gaze away. "Get lost." Crying, Lin Mian turned to open the door but couldn't get it to budge. A large hand reached over from behind and pressed down on her hand, lifting it up. With a click, the door opened. The lock was actually reversed. Lin Mian didn't care about that anymore. She burst out, crying, and forgot to change her shoes. After running a few meters and seeing the elevator entrance, she could no longer bear the pressure and leaned against the wall in front of the elevator, gasping for air. It was quiet here. She didn't dare to cry out loud. Covering her mouth, Lin Mian let the tears fall one by one, her teeth chattering uncontrollably, making clattering sounds. She was terrified. She had never dared to do these things. Even though she had prepared herself, she still felt so scared that she had run away, nearly breaking down. Lin Mian squatted down weakly, silently sobbing for about 10 minutes, and her anxious, fearful heart gradually calmed down. At that moment, her phone rang, displaying Mom on the screen. Lin Mian answered the call, crying, hoping for comfort amidst her fear, but the next second, a barrage of curses came from the other end. "You ungrateful, dog-bred bastard. It's bad enough your father is disabled. You're just a white-eyed wolf, relying on me to make money all by myself. Where's the money? I'm telling you, if you don't send money soon, your dad won't be able to have his checkup the day after tomorrow. He might as well stay paralyzed in that wheelchair and I dying would be better. Lin Mian's sobs instantly choked back. When she was 5 years old, her father took her on his bicycle to buy ice cream. Unfortunately, they had an accident on the way. Her father shielded her with his body and was hit by an oncoming truck, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down. The culprit fled after tossing a little money their way, and since then, their family's pillar collapsed, leaving them in abject poverty. When she turned 18, she got into university, and her father insisted she attend despite opposition. Throughout her life, he had suffered countless grievances and insults, secretly borrowing money from relatives to give her, all so she could study hard, believing that education was the only way to a better life. But the day after tomorrow was the long-awaited surgery. They had hired an expert and waited 5 years in line. Without money, her father would have to spend many more years in a wheelchair. Over the years, she had witnessed a man's dignity ground into the dirt. Lin Mian felt a sharp pain in her chest. She hung up the phone and wiped away her tears. Looking down at the disposable slippers on her feet, she noticed how thin the soles were. The coldness of the floor seeped into her feet, invading her nerves and spreading through her body. Lin Mian shivered, stood up from the ground, and turned back. Within a few steps, she reached the door, wiped her face, and raised her hand to knock on door 1009. After a moment, the door opened, revealing the man's exquisitely handsome face. Without waiting for him to speak, Lin Mian directly asked, "Do you want something else?" Chapter 6, Can you turn off the lights? Shalin didn't expect her to come back again. He looked at her tear-streaked face, which seemed even more pitiful than before. Her lip was split, her eyes were red and swollen, and silent tears streamed down her cheeks, suppressing her distress and despair. It seemed she had been triggered by something. He leaned against the wine cabinet. "Are you sure?" Lin Mian clenched her fingers. "I need money." "Same old rules, take off your pants." Shalin spoke, wanting to see if she would really go all out. Lin Mian sniffled as she closed the door, stepped inside, and began to take off her coat. A thin layer of fabric was quickly removed and thrown onto the floor. Then came her pants. With a click, her loose-fitting jeans fell neatly to the ground, leaving only a fitted undergarment. Lin Mian moved her hands behind her back and felt the metal clasp. She closed her eyes and unfastened it without a second thought. A sense of tragic bravery washed over her. Shalin calmly observed the girl before him. Her skin was quite fair, almost blinding under the light, her waist slender enough to be grasped with one hand, her figure petite and her legs well proportioned. Her hair was disheveled against her face, tears silently falling, creating a pitiful sight that made one want to ravage her. The more she cried, the more it stirred the primal instincts within the man. It even dispelled the last remnants of his pity. Shalin's gaze deepened as he sat on the sofa, beckoning her with a hand, his voice flat and cold. "I'll give you 20 minutes. Be proactive. If you fail to pique my interest, just turn around and leave." He was clearly being fierce. Yet it still didn't scare her off. Lin Mian pursed her lips and slowly walked to him, squatting down close to his body. She didn't know how she had never been in a relationship and hadn't even watched any related movies. She recalled a poem she had accidentally seen, lips dry and noisy, back itches, how can I get the jade pot to pour the golden wave? Lin Mian leaned forward, tilted her head, and pressed her lips against the man's. At the moment their lips touched, Lin Mian froze, her breathing involuntarily quickening. His lips were thin, cool, and carried a faintly unique chill. She didn't know what to do, remaining motionless at first, then lightly brushing against his lips. They met, parted, and met again. The darkness in Shalin's eyes deepened, with some desire stirring beneath the surface, unstoppable. He was actually aroused by her aimless kiss, which didn't even count as a kiss. All she knew was how to press her lips against his, to nibble. As he remained still, Lin Mian kept on, gradually becoming bolder with her touches, keenly sensing his breathing pattern. Whenever she pressed her lips against his, he would slightly hold his breath or quicken it. Gradually, she began to grasp the rhythm, unconsciously nibbling on his lip. Boom! The last vestige of Shalin's self-control exploded. Having had a drink that night, he suddenly no longer wanted to hold back. In the next second, he suddenly pressed the back of her head down, taking control, and bit down on her lip, deepening the kiss. His kiss was fierce, far more intense than her earlier teasing, making her attempt seem trivial in comparison. His tongue swept in forcefully, followed by his breath aggressive and bold. In a daze, Lin Mian belatedly realized this was what a kiss truly was. After that, she didn't know when she ended up pressed against the sofa, with the light shining directly on her pale, slender body. The scene was exaggerated to the utmost. Unable to help herself, Lin Mian weakly said, "See, can you turn off the lights?" Shalin smirked. No. Lin Mian had no choice but to shut her mouth and close her eyes. His movements were quick, his gaze was cold, yet his actions betrayed his raw, straightforward dominance. Lin Mian couldn't take it any longer and clung to his bulging bicep. "Can you go a little slower? It hurts." Shalin's gaze lowered, gripping her delicate waist with one hand. A slight squeeze could crush her. His Adam's apple bobbed as his deep voice filled her ear, laced with a hint of dark mockery. "If you're not afraid of the pain from selling eggs, why be afraid of this? Endure it." Lin Mian didn't dare to speak again and silently buried her face in his chest. Chapter 7: No intimate relations for a week. After leaving Baifang City, Lin Mian took the subway back to her dormitory alone. Her roommates were all in class, so she slipped into the bathroom to take a shower. Her gaze fell upon the marks on her body, red and purple, which looked somewhat alarming. The man from last night wasn't gentle at all, in fact, he was almost coldly rough. She spent quite a while scrubbing herself inside and out before slipping into her pajamas and lying down on her bed, letting out a long breath. The familiar surroundings and scents helped to ease her mind a little. Lin Mian took out her phone to check Shalin still hadn't transferred the money to her. She stared at the empty chat box for a long time, typed a few lines, her face flushing red, then couldn't help but delete it again. Better to wait a bit longer. It felt somewhat awkward to bring up this matter. Shalin had an early surgery and had been busy for several hours, completely forgetting about it. It wasn't until 3 in the afternoon that he emerged from the operating room, checked the time on his phone, and suddenly recalled the matter when he noticed the faint marks on his arm. He opened WeChat with a single tap, easily finding Lin Mian's account. Her profile picture was a dark-toned cartoon image of a girl wearing a black hat. Her name was just 2 simple letters, LM. Their chat history was completely empty, devoid of any messages. If that woman was so eager for money, why wasn't she asking him for it? Shalin curled his lips, typed in a string of numbers, but hesitated and deleted it while entering the password. Let us see how long she can keep up this act. Back in the outpatient department, he was on a tight schedule. Recently, the gastroenterology attending physician had taken leave, so Shalin changed into his scrubs to fill in. As closing time approached, there weren't many patients left, just a few scattered ones. Knock, knock. A polite, measured knock echoed from outside. "Come in," Shalin responded. The door to the consultation room was pushed open, and slow, gentle footsteps walked in. "Doctor, I have a stomachache." That voice soft and familiar. Shalin looked up and happened to meet Lin Mian's gaze. At the same time, Lin Mian recognized him, her round, slightly chubby face showing surprise, quickly turning red, with her ears suspiciously flushing. "It's him? So he's a doctor." She quickly felt embarrassed, lowering her head and feeling somewhat lost. In contrast, Shalin looked at her coldly, his tone indifferent, as if he didn't recognize her. "What kind of pain?" Lin Mian sat in the chair, burying her head and stuttering. "It's a sharp pain that comes and goes. It hurts when I walk, and it hurts when I sit." "Lie down on the bed and lift your clothes." Shalin typed a few lines on the computer, not raising his head as he casually tossed out the instruction. Lin Mian swallowed, got up obediently, and walked to the examination bed, lying down properly on the narrow exam table, her eyes fixated on the ceiling above. Before long, the man walked over, wearing rubber medical gloves. From Lin Mian's perspective, she could only see his white coat and the name on the badge on his left side. Gastroenterology, Shalin. So his name is Shalin. Lin Mian silently remembered the name. He carried a faint smell of disinfectant, somewhat overlapping with the scent from last night, causing her mind to drift. In the next second, Shalin pressed firmly and accurately on her abdomen and asked, "Does it hurt here?" Lin Mian's face reddened as she replied, "Lower." Shalin moved his hand down a couple of inches. "Here?" Lin Mian awkwardly nodded. "Millimeter." His fingers pressed almost directly on her lower abdomen. Although he was wearing gloves, the warmth of his fingers penetrated through the rubber, invading her skin, making Lin Mian feel somewhat breathless. Lin pressed on a few more spots, confirming the location and getting her responses. Finally, he released his hand, understanding the situation. It wasn't a stomach issue, it was menstrual cramps. He had been rough with her last night, and it was her first time, so it was inevitable she would feel unwell afterward. But he didn't expect her body to be so delicate she was still in pain a day later without improvement. She was indeed quite fragile. Lin sat at the desk, his knuckles rhythmically tapping as he typed. I'll prescribe you some medication. Take it 3 times a day after meals. Lin Mian blushed as she got off the bed, quickly adjusting the hem of her clothes. Then, she obediently sat down in the chair opposite Lin, waiting for him to prepare the prescription. After printing the prescription, Lin handed it to her with his long, distinct fingers. He paused for a moment, then suddenly added coldly, remember, no intimate relations for a week. Lin Mian's face turned even redder, her head buzzed as she nodded, taking the prescription and her health insurance card from him. Did you remember? The man held her card and asked again. Lin Mian nodded, I remember. Repeat it. 3 times a day after meals, no intimate relations for a week. Lin Mian repeated it, her cheeks burning, wishing she could dig a hole and bury herself. Was it his fault that she was in this state? Other than being with him, she had no intimate relations. Let us go. The man leaned back slightly, releasing her health insurance card and prescription. Lin Mian took the prescription and fled in a panic. As she reached the door, her steps hesitated for a moment, and she turned to him, saying, You still haven't transferred the money to me. Chapter 8, She walks a little awkwardly. Lin raised an eyebrow, took out his phone, and opened their WeChat conversation. How much do you need? He asked, tilting his head at her. How much did she need? It was her first time doing something like this, and she wasn't very familiar with the market price. However, her father's surgical fees were quite substantial. Lin Mian hesitated, unsure how much to say. Seeing her like this, Lin tapped a few keys on the keyboard and read out the search results a few seconds later. According to the egg donation market, vocational school students get around 20,000 to 30,000, college graduates get 50,000 to 80,000, and graduates from 211 or 985 schools start at 100,000. He looked up at her. How much do you need? 50,000 or 100,000? Lin Mian didn't expect him to know this. The prices he mentioned were far higher than those posted in the school bathrooms, leaving her a bit at a loss. She lowered her head and quietly said, 50,000. Lin unlocked his phone, tapped a few buttons, and transferred the money. The sound of the transfer echoed, and Lin Mian instinctively looked at the screen. When she saw the amount, she was taken aback. A full 100,000. He had given her double. Lin Mian looked at him in astonishment, shocked by his generosity. She hadn't sold her eggs, nor was she being kept by him subconsciously, she felt he had given too much. Lin put away his phone and glanced at her, who was still in a daze. Still not leaving. He had intentionally left half as her pocket money. For a female college student, this amount was enough to support her living expenses for a long time, preventing her from foolishly selling her eggs again. Lin Mian came to her senses, biting her lip as she accepted the money. Thank you, she said quietly. The man looked at the computer screen, his striking features showing no emotion, his voice flat and cold. Next. Lin Mian clutched the prescription and left the room. Outside, she ran into Liu Zibai, who was about to enter. They brushed past each other, and Liu Zibai glanced at the prescription in her hand, his eyes filled with a hint of intrigue. Lin Mian was focused on getting her medicine and hurriedly left. In the consultation room, Liu Zibai entered, his tone somewhat gossipy. Gastroenterology, why are you prescribing gynecological medication? Lin glanced at him. Mind your own business. Liu Zibai leaned over the desk, his eyes scanning Lin's body, accurately noticing the rolled-up sleeves that revealed faint red scratch marks on his forearm. His eyes immediately turned meaningful. I was wondering why you didn't drink with me yesterday, turns out you had plans. Lin stared at the computer, his tone indifferent. Did you come in here just to say that? Liu Zibai said, the girl who just left, she's your girlfriend? Not exactly. Oh, just a casual fling for the night, huh? I noticed she was walking a bit awkwardly. You didn't hurt her, did you? Lin shot him a look. Are you free to chat? Lu Jibai laughed. I didn't think you were into this type. I assumed you liked sexy vixens, but you're into soft, innocent little bunnies instead. Quite a unique taste. Unique. Shalin recalled the scene from last night, with her clean and delicate figure under the glaring lights. She was pale and slender, her curves alluring, a mix of innocence and seduction, her eyes red and watery, easily stirring a man's desire to possess her. She did resemble a little bunny, irresistible and touchable. Let us get back to business. Shalin snapped back to reality, uninterested in chatting with Lu Jibai. Lu Jibai then said seriously, this weekend, Qin Li has a birthday party. I'm letting you know at Xingqiao Club. Got it. After that, Shalin shooed him out of the consultation room. Once Lin Mian left the hospital, she immediately transferred the money to her mother. After thinking for a moment, she first sent half of it, just in case she needed to transfer more later. The other party quickly received the money, but didn't reply with a single word. Even through the screen, she could feel the coldness and impatience on the other end. Lin Mian waited for a long time and sent a WeChat message to her brother. Please let me know the results after Dad's surgery. The response was a simple OK gesture. After getting her medication, Lin Mian took the bus back to school. When she arrived at the dormitory building, she was blocked by a figure. A carefree male voice called out to her. Lin Mian, stop. Lin Mian instinctively took 2 steps back, keeping a cautious distance of a meter from the person in front of her. The man was Song Ziyuan, a senior from the finance department next door. It was rumored that his family was quite wealthy, and he was a rich second generation who played around a lot and frequently changed girlfriends. Recently, he had been pestering her. Are you looking for me? Lin Mian hid the medicine bag behind her, watching him warily. Song Ziyuan stared at her innocent face, feeling an itch in his heart, eager to win her over and take her to a hotel to have his way with her. This clean little virgin was just the kind of challenge that gave him a sense of accomplishment. He stepped closer, his handsome face nearing hers. I heard you went to sell your eggs. Chapter 9, she got blocked by the man. Lin Mian's eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at him. She had been incredibly secretive about this matter, even making phone calls in secluded corners. How could he possibly know? I didn't. Don't say such things. Lin Mian bit her lip, fearing that something might be exposed. She had no intention of getting into a quarrel with him and turned to run upstairs. Song Ziyuan grabbed her arm and easily pulled her back. Don't run. I know you need money. I have plenty of it. How about this, you sleep with me for one night, and I'll give you 10,000 for it. What do you think? Lin Mian didn't expect him to be so straightforward. Her face turned pale in an instant, feeling a humiliation that stemmed from being toyed with and belittled. Even after she had sold herself yesterday and had been thoroughly taken advantage of by that man, nothing felt as degrading as this moment. She forcefully shook off Song Ziyuan's hand. I don't need the money anymore. Don't come looking for me again. After saying that, she hurriedly fled toward the dormitory building. From behind, she could faintly hear the man's taunting voice, running away, help. I'll be waiting for you to come find me. Lin Mian clenched the medicine bag in her hand, her pace quickening. Even after returning to the dormitory, her heart was still pounding, unable to calm down. Today, there were others in the dorm. Lin Mian placed her bag on the bed and then stealthily squeezed into the bathroom, clutching the medicine box. Remembering Song Ziyuan's words, a wave of unease washed over her. She hadn't sold her eggs. But somehow, the news had leaked. What on earth was going on? After racking her brain for a long time, she couldn't figure out any reason. The only one who knew about this was Shalin. Could it be him? Thinking of the man's cold, detached face made her bite her lip tighter. Could it be that because he had given her extra money, he sold her privacy? She took out her phone, opened Shalin's chat, and sent "Are you there?" message. The next second, a red exclamation mark popped up on the screen. She had been blocked. Lin Mian stared at the screen for a full minute, trying to process this fact. It seemed that the man truly wanted nothing to do with her. He probably thought she had deliberately gone to the hospital to entangle him today. So he transferred her double the money to buy out their night together. Lin Mian pressed her lips together, silently exiting WeChat. Knock, knock. Someone was knocking on the door from outside. Mian, are you done? I need to use the bathroom. Hurry up. Lin Mian immediately snapped back to reality, quickly putting away her phone. She then opened the medicine box and took 2 pills as directed, swallowing them with water before hiding the box and opening the door. Her roommate, Mu Dao, was waiting outside and asked in surprise, "Hey, how rare. You didn't go to the supermarket for work today?" Lin Mian usually worked part-time when she was on break and had few chances to be seen in the dorm during the day. "I had something to do today, so I took the day off." Lin Mian casually found an excuse and then dove into the tent under her bed. With only a month left until her internship, she was busy working on her final design. She also took a part-time job with her mentor in engineering surveying to gain some experience and make some pocket money. Thus, she couldn't afford to slack off and buried herself in her studies. For the following week, Lin Mian was busy running between the dormitory and the teaching building. She intentionally avoided Song Ziyuan and hadn't seen him for an entire week. The worries she had didn't manifest. Everything was proceeding normally, and Lin Mian's tightly wound nerves gradually relaxed. Perhaps Song Ziyuan had lost interest in her. That would be best. Her father's surgery had been completed, and he was now in recovery, needing to stay in the hospital for 3 months. The surgical fees were expensive, and the post-operative medical expenses wouldn't be cheap either. Lin Mian thought for a moment and gritted her teeth, transferring another 10,000, wanting her father to have better medication. As long as her father could stand up, she felt that anything she did was worth it. On a weekend evening, her roommate Mu Dao approached her, asking mysteriously, "Mian Mian, do you want to make some big money?" Chapter 10, Can you just follow me without hesitation? What big money? Lin Mian's interest peaked at the mention of money. There's a part-time gig tonight at a club. You just need to serve drinks and promote them. It's a night shift. You can earn 1,000 for the night, plus commissions. Are you interested? Serve drinks? Lin Mian hesitated. She had never done such work before, and she knew that clubs were often chaotic and not straightforward. But 1,000 for one night really tempted her. At the supermarket, she worked as a cashier and only earned a bit over 100 a day, which was barely enough compared to her father's recovery expenses. She needed to keep making money to feel secure. Don't worry, this club is high-end. My friend has worked there several times without any issues. I only invited you because I felt safe about it. You're really short on cash, right? I saw you eating instant noodles for lunch again. Mu Dao noticed her concerns and kindly explained. During her 4 years in college, many of Lin Mian's part-time jobs had been recommended by Mu Dao, all reliable. Okay then, I'll finish this drawing and go with you. Lin Mian nodded and quickened her pace. At 7 in the evening, Lin Mian followed Mu Dao and her friends to the club. Because of the internal referral, the supervisor treated them well. Lin Mian was assigned to a relatively harmonious private room, and things went fairly smoothly. She was good at promoting drinks, so she just kept pouring drinks for the guests. For her, even without commission, the guaranteed salary of 1,000 was already quite high. Fortunately, the guests were all easy to talk to. She stayed in the room for 3 full hours, and only when the guests were about to leave did she find a moment to go to the restroom. As soon as she entered, she almost bumped into a man. Instinctively, she tried to dodge, but the man only glanced at her and blocked her way. "Oh, Lin Mian, what are you doing here? Serving drinks? What a coincidence." She hadn't expected to run into Song Ziyuan. He seemed to have had quite a bit to drink, his face red and reeking of alcohol. Upon seeing Lin Mian, he lunged at her with ill intentions. "Who needs to serve drinks? Just accompany me instead. I don't know you well. Please let go." Lin Mian instinctively tried to get away, but he stubbornly grabbed her and pulled her into his embrace. "What do you mean you don't know me? After a night together, won't we be familiar? To be honest, your face is really pure, and your body is clean. I genuinely want to sleep with you, so stop pretending. Can you just follow me without hesitation?" Song Ziyuan pressed her against the door, leaning down closer to her. "Song Ziyuan, let go of me." Lin Mian felt a surge of panic and desperately tried to push him away, but it was useless. "HMPH. I couldn't get you in school. On my turf, do you think I'll let you get away? Don't struggle, I can make it less painful for you later." Song Ziyuan held Lin Mian's wrists tightly, refusing to let go no matter how she struggled. Lin Mian was on the verge of tears, her clothes askew from his grip. In such a noisy place, she screamed at the top of her lungs, but it was futile. Just as he was about to kiss her, Lin Mian bit down hard on her teeth. Bang! The restroom door suddenly burst open with a kick, interrupting their entanglement. Song Ziyuan irritably glanced over, and when he saw the man's refined and indifferent face, he froze in place. Uncle. Chapter 11, can you accompany me for one more night to Offset? Shalin stood outside the door, wearing a tailored black suit, tall and straight, exuding an air of restraint. With his hands in his pockets, he casually glanced at Song Ziyuan and the woman beneath him, his brow slightly furrowed and his voice cold. What are you doing, messing around? Lin Mian heard the voice and instinctively looked up, meeting Shalin's indifferent, clear gaze, causing her heart to skip a beat. It was him. He was Song Ziyuan's uncle. Song Ziyuan forcibly wrapped his arm around Lin Mian's shoulder, smiling somewhat nervously. It's nothing. This is my girlfriend, we're just having some fun. Girlfriend? Shalin repeated the words, his gaze landing on Lin Mian's face. Today, she had applied makeup, her fair skin looked smooth, her cheeks slightly flushed, and her long, curled eyelashes framed large, watery eyes filled with fear, her red-rimmed eyes resembling a bullied rabbit. Lin Mian struggled to free herself from Song Ziyuan's hold and quickly retorted, I'm not his girlfriend. Do I have to spell it out for you? Uncle, I haven't had any fun in a while. Letting a classmate sleep over is fine, and I'm paying her. Before Lin Mian could finish, Song Ziyuan interrupted her, pulling her along to leave. He had seen Shalin at this club a few times, and each time they had kept to themselves. His uncle wasn't someone who meddled in others' affairs. As Lin Mian stumbled behind him, passing by Shalin, he suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist. Uncle, what are you doing? Song Ziyuan didn't understand his intentions. Get lost. Shalin's reply was curt. But she. Song Ziyuan wanted to argue, but a cold glare from Shalin silenced him. If there's SA next time, I'll have your father break your legs, Shalin added coldly. This time, Song Ziyuan didn't dare to retort. He shot Lin Mian a resentful look before reluctantly turning to leave. The restroom finally quieted down, leaving only the two of them facing each other. Shalin lowered his gaze, taking in her outfit, a white shirt, a super short skirt, and a bow tie around her neck, clearly the attire for serving drinks. I'm here for a part-time job, Lin Mian explained. Thank you for helping me out earlier. Shalin didn't say much. Instead, he walked out of the restroom and leaned against the quiet hallway outside, a more convenient place for conversation. He beckoned her over with a hand, and Lin Mian walked closer. Are you short on money again? He asked. Lin Mian shook her head. No. Then why are you doing this? Lin Mian honestly replied, I want to save money. Shalin stared at her for a while, then asked, how much do you want to save? 50,000. Shalin gave her a meaningful look, his eyes dark and inscrutable. He tugged at his tie, loosened 2 buttons of his shirt, easing the restriction around his neck, then lifted his gaze back to her. What if you can't save that much? Huh? Lin Mian didn't understand his intentions and looked up at him in confusion. Planning to sell yourself again? Or sell your eggs? Shalin mocked lightly, his voice laced with an inexplicable chill. Lin Mian's face flushed bright red, her ears heating up. Even someone as patient as her couldn't tolerate Shalin's sarcasm. I didn't. She felt he had misunderstood something and needed to clarify. Lin Mian mumbled, I want to save 50,000 to pay you back. She stubbornly believed she could only feel secure earning money within her own logic. She asked for 50,000, but he gave her 100,000. She felt there was something wrong with this logic and wanted to return it. Upon hearing this, Shalin looked at her with an inexplicable gaze, his brows slightly furrowing. Was this college student really that naive? Had her studies made her foolish? Do you have to pay it back? He squinted, surveying her body from top to bottom. The club's work attire was designed to be form-fitting, accentuating her curves full in the front and back, with a waist small enough to be grasped, and her long legs straight and slender. Her cheeks still had a hint of baby fat, innocent yet alluring, which reminded him of the night a week ago. However, Lin Mian firmly nodded. Yes, I want to pay it back. Shalin lowered his brows, suddenly closing the distance between them, enclosing her in his shadow. His deep, dark eyes fixed on her face as he spoke in a low, husky voice. Then how about you accompany me for one more night to offset it? What do you think? Chapter 12, 50,000 isn't tea that easy to earn. Lin Mian's head buzzed, as if she hadn't expected him to make this request. Her heart raced uncontrollably. Thump. Thump. Each beat felt as if it would leap out of her chest. Lin's face drew closer, his features cold and sharp, his lines clean cut. His high nose almost touched her nose, and a faint masculine scent wafted from him, blending slowly with her own breath. Lin Mian awkwardly turned her head away, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't engage in sexual activities for a week. That was his instruction. It's been a week, you're fine now. But I'm the doctor, I make the call. Before she could finish, Lin captured her lips, his long fingers gripping the back of her head, forcing her into submission without giving her a chance to refuse. His heated breath brushed against her nose, igniting a warmth that spread across her entire face. In a daze, Lin Mian's mind turned to mush. This was her second kiss, and the feeling was somewhat intoxicating, leaving her uncertain if it was a good or bad thing. The first kiss had happened in the car. The second was behind the door. Perhaps because of his experience, Lin was even bolder this time. His stamina was astonishing, and he didn't give her a moment to catch her breath. By the end, Lin Mian's legs felt weak, her fingers clutching his muscular arms as she inwardly grumbled, he must be a repressed man in private, always coming up with different tricks, leaving her sore and exhausted, and they had never even made it to their bed. When the third time came, as the man leaned over her on the couch, she couldn't help but weakly ask, can we go to the bed? Lin glanced down at her. The girl's hair was damp, her breath slightly uneven, her cheeks flushed, and her eyes red-rimmed, giving her a pitiful yet timid appearance that was hard to resist. His gaze flickered, and he relented. Okay, you get into position. Hearing his concession, Lin Mian hurriedly dragged her sore legs to the bed, only to be pulled by Lin at the ankles, dragging her to the foot of the bed. He stood above her, looking down with a slightly lowered gaze. Even though his movements didn't stop for a moment, there was no change in the coldness of his eyes. The overhead light was glaringly bright, brutally illuminating the scene. Lin Mian awkwardly covered her eyes. This 50,000 wasn't that easy to earn. The next morning, Lin Mian woke up early. She was greeted by the bright floor-to-ceiling windows and the understated, minimalist chandelier. It took her a moment to realize what had happened the night before. She had sold herself again, and to the same man. On the other side of the bed, Lin was still asleep, a thin blanket covering his waist, revealing his strong and well-defined upper body muscles, broad shoulders, narrow waist, slim but strong. It was a very well-built physique. Lin Mian felt her face heat up and quickly got out of bed to find her clothes while he remained asleep. Her clothes weren't in the bedroom but scattered across the living room floor and sofa. She endured the soreness in her legs and struggled for a while before managing to put on her t-shirt and jeans. She had changed her clothes after leaving the club last night. Click. As the bedroom door opened, Lin emerged in a robe just as she was squatting at the door putting on her shoes. He glanced at Lin Mian but didn't say much, instead bypassing her to the kitchen for a glass of water. When he returned, Lin Mian had already tied her shoelaces. I'm leaving, Lin Mian hesitated at the door, greeting him. Millimeter. The man took a sip of water, his voice cold and distant, entirely different from the intimacy of the previous night, as if he were a completely different person. I have a stomachache, could you prescribe me some more medicine? Chapter 13, Is there a woman hidden in Lin's house? As soon as the words left Lin Mian's mouth, her cheeks flushed slightly. Since leaving him last time, she had experienced 2 or 3 days of stomach pain. Just when she thought she had recovered, after last night's rough treatment, the familiar cramping had begun again this morning. Lin paused for a moment, his gaze shifting to her legs. Does it hurt again? Lin Mian awkwardly nodded, answering honestly, it hurts just like last time, it's quite uncomfortable. Lin pressed his lips together, a brief darkness flickering in his eyes. He set the cup down on the coffee table and dropped 2 words. Wait here. A few minutes later, he emerged from the bedroom holding 2 boxes of imported medicine and tossed them into Lin Mian's arms. These are painkillers, take one after meals once a day. If it still hurts after 2 days, come to the hospital to see me. Lin Mian hurriedly stuffed the medicine boxes into her bag and thanked him, thank you. Let us go. He turned and headed back to the bedroom, leaving her without further ado. Having had two close encounters, Lin Mian understood his aloof nature to some extent. Their relationship was transactional, and it was already a bonus that he had let her stay the night. She adjusted her bag and was about to open the door to leave when. Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell suddenly rang. Startled, she instinctively looked up, and on the small screen in the entryway appeared a familiar face. It was Song Ziyuan. Lin Mian's heart stopped for a moment, and she reflexively retreated into the living room, her face turning beet red, feeling both nervous and flustered. What's wrong? Seeing her unusual reaction, Lin peeked his head out and asked. Your nephew is outside. Lin Mian replied, her cheeks still flushed. She remembered that last night Song Ziyuan had called Lin uncle and had been quite respectful, so she didn't expect him to come to Lin's apartment. If Song Ziyuan saw her here, it would be too embarrassing. Lin seemed momentarily stunned, but his expression quickly returned to calm. While tying the sash of his robe, he nodded toward the bedroom. Go inside. Lin Mian instantly understood his meaning, quickly stepped into the bedroom, and closed the door behind her. Lin glanced at the somewhat messy living room before walking over to open the door. Uncle, why did it take you so long to open the door? My dad sent me to bring you the documents. Song Ziyuan's voice came from outside, and even though it was separated by the bedroom door, Lin Mian could vaguely hear. The stuff is here, you can go now. Lin took the documents and unceremoniously dismissed him. Wait a moment, I have something to tell you. Song Ziyuan leaned in, eager, and said directly, it's about last night at the club. Can you not interfere with me? Lin's brow furrowed slightly as he shot a sharp glance at him. What do you mean? Song Ziyuan grinned lewdly. About that girl from last night. Sweet and innocent, quite young. I heard she's a virgin, she's incredibly pure. I want to hook up with her. Lin's eyelid twitched involuntarily, and he glanced at the bedroom, his expression cold and devoid of warmth. No. Why not? Song Ziyuan didn't understand. He had always played around without Lin ever stepping in before. Suddenly acting like a protective elder felt extremely uncomfortable for him. She's not suitable, you can't handle her. Lin issued a firm order. Song Ziyuan was still unconvinced. You can't possibly think that I'm going to ruin her because of her innocent appearance, right? I'll tell you, she was selling her eggs for money not long ago. I overheard it when she was on the phone. There are plenty of guys in school who want her. Even if I don't pursue her, others will. It's all the same who sleeps with her, doesn't matter. Hearing this, Lin's expression darkened instantly. He recalled how the woman had cried softly on his bed last night and thought about how she was being eyed by others. It made him feel frustrated. I'm not concerned about others, but as for you, he warned directly, control yourself. If I find out you did something you shouldn't have, you know the consequences. Song Ziyuan couldn't help but shiver. Thinking about his uncle's history of dealing with people, he felt a bit intimidated. Okay, I understand. I want to pursue her. Lin shot him a cold glance before turning to change clothes in the cloakroom. If you have nothing else, get lost. Don't hang around here. Watching his uncle's retreating figure, Song Ziyuan sighed helplessly. Just as he was about to leave, he caught a glimpse of a shadow under the bedroom door and stopped in his tracks. His usually cold and distant uncle actually had someone at home. And hiding in the bedroom. Could it be a woman? Song Ziyuan's curiosity piqued, and he stepped toward the bedroom. Lin Mian crouched behind the door, listening carefully to the sounds outside, and for a long while, there was no movement. The next moment, the tightly closed door suddenly clicked and was turned open. Chapter 14, Really Too Innocent. Boom. Lin Mian was caught off guard and froze in place, his mind going blank. The door of the room was opened, and half of Song Ziyuan's body leaned in. Lin Mian's heart instantly rose to her throat. The next second, a figure rushed into the room like lightning, and the tall and straight body blocked her way. Lin Mian immediately fell into a familiar embrace. Song Ziyuan, get out. Lin's face was gloomy and he growled at Song Ziyuan in a low voice. Uncle, you actually have a woman. Song Ziyuan opened his mouth in surprise. He stood there and didn't want to leave. He kept looking into his arms with a gossipy look. Lin Mian buried her face tightly in the man's chest, not daring to move at all. The more Song Ziyuan looked at the woman's back, the more he felt that it looked familiar, as if he had seen her somewhere before. He wanted to move closer to take a closer look, but was kicked hard by Lin. "I told you to get out, didn't you hear me?" He was really angry this time. His usually cold eyes revealed a terrible sinister look, as if he was going to kill someone in the next second. Song Ziyuan didn't dare to look any longer and had to leave in disappointment. With a bang, the bedroom door slammed shut behind him. Song Ziyuan curled his lips and complained in his heart, "TSK, he looks so serious and gentle at ordinary times, but he brings women home privately, he is more playful than him." Only when there was no more noise outside did Lin Mian withdraw from Lin's arms, with a look of shock on her face. "Thank you for just now. If he hadn't rescued her in time, she would have died a miserable death. Besides me, who else did you turn to for help in selling your eggs?" Lin asked her suddenly. Lin Mian was stunned for a moment and shook his head. "No, I only called you. There was only one number on the toilet advertisement, and she only wrote that one down." Lin glanced at her and said, "Be more careful when you make phone calls next time. Look around you more often. Walls have ears." Lin Mian immediately understood what he meant and nodded with a red face. She heard everything Song Ziyuan said outside just now. It turned out that she leaked it when she was on the phone and Song Ziyuan happened to hear it. Fortunately, he didn't know that the person she called was his uncle, otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Then, I'll leave." Lin Mian was about to leave when she suddenly remembered that he had blocked her. She added sensibly, "Don't worry, I won't bother you anymore. We are clear now." Lin. They had sex twice and she made them feel like strangers. Lin Mian opened the door and left without looking back. Because of her stomachache, her walking posture was a little crooked. Lin curled the corners of his lips, turned around and went back to make the bed. With the corner of his eye, he saw a faint trace of blood on the bed sheet, and his eyes darkened. It's really too tender to be handled. Bleeding at the slightest provocation. I don't know how to satisfy a man after I get married. Chapter 15, I can't stand being tormented. Lin Mian lingered in the corridor for a long time, and only walked back slowly after making sure that Song Ziyuan was gone. "Lin Mian, why are you here?" A male voice suddenly came from the front. Lin Mian raised his head to see the man's face clearly and stood up straight subconsciously. "Teacher Qin." Lin Mian called him that, but the man in front of her was not just a teacher, he was also a board member of a university Qin Li. He would allocate a large scholarship to University A every year. As a 4-year recipient of the scholarship, Lin Mian would take a photo with Qin Li almost every year. So they can talk to each other. "What a coincidence, I actually ran into you in the neighborhood. Are you here to see your friends?" Qin Li was wearing a grey casual suit with one hand in his pocket, and his smile sounded casual and familiar. Lin Mian lied with his eyes open, "I came here to work, and now I am going back to school." She has always worked part-time to pay for her studies, and all the teachers in the department know it. Qin Li nodded in understanding. "Oh, I see. I remember you are about to graduate, right? Are you graduating this year?" "Yes, there is still 1 month left before the internship starts." Lin Mian answered truthfully. Qin Li thought for a moment and suddenly said, "I'll say hello to your instructor. How about you come to my place during your internship?" Lin Mian didn't react for a moment and looked at him blankly. "I have a design project here and I need an assistant. Is Lin Mian interested?" Lin Mian's eyes lit up and he agreed almost immediately. "I'm interested. Thank you, Teacher Qin. I will do my best." For her as a college student, this opportunity was like a pie in the sky. Qin Li is a school director with broad abilities and abundant resources. Lin Mian could not even imagine being able to intern and work on projects with him. "Okay, it's settled then. I'll come find you in a few days." Lin Mian instantly became happy. "Thank you, Teacher Qin." "Goodbye, Teacher Qin." She walked out of the community in great joy, not even feeling the pain in her legs. It seemed that the man was a lucky star, as he had easily helped her get a good internship opportunity. Beep. Not long after Lin Mian left, a black Land Rover stopped beside Qin Li. The window was half lowered, revealing Lin's cold and indifferent face. Qin Li opened the car door skillfully and got in. "Dr. Shi, it was my birthday yesterday, but you disappeared halfway through the drink. What were you doing disappearing for the second half?" Shalin started the car. Something happened. What could possibly happen to you? Did you pick up a woman? Chin Li teased him. There are scratches on your arm. TSK, they look fresh. Which little wildcat hit you so hard? Shalin glanced at his hands on the steering wheel. His shirt sleeves were half rolled up, revealing a few red scratches on his arms. The scene from last night came to my mind. At first she begged him by grabbing the bed sheet, but later she couldn't bear it anymore, so she grabbed his arms with her two little hands and begged in a whining manner. In the end, praying didn't work, so I started to scratch it from time to time. Wildcat. Is it a wild rabbit that bites people out of anger? Shalin retracted her gaze, thinking about what she and Chin Li were talking about just now, and how they looked very happy, so she asked casually. The one you were chatting with just now, is he your student? Chapter 16 The Taste of Being a Man. Chin Li became excited when he talked about this. Yes, she is an excellent student in our school who has won the scholarship for 4 consecutive years. The little girl has great potential and is very outstanding. She is a good seedling. You are good at judging people. What do you think of her? Is she capable enough? Chin Li stepped forward and asked. Shalin pulled his lower lip sarcastically and said, It's better to clean up the small advertisements in the girls' restroom in your school. When Lin Mian returned to the dormitory, he immediately poured himself a glass of water and opened the medicine given by Shalin and put it into his mouth. Bite. The phone screen lit up. She picked up the phone and opened it. Someone transferred 1,000 yuan on WeChat, and her roommate Mu Dao's voice sounded from behind her. Mian, I've transferred the part-time job fee from last night to you, but why didn't you come back all night? You came back even later than I did. If you hadn't sent me a text message to let me know you were safe, I would have thought you were taken away by gangsters. Lin Mian put away the medicine box and lied with a blushing face. I went to the convenience store to work the night shift last night, hoping to earn some extra money. You work too hard. You're almost like a 24-hour soldier, working so hard to make money. No wonder you have such dark circles under your eyes. It's obvious that you didn't sleep all night. Hearing this, Lin Mian's cheeks turned red involuntarily. In fact, in a sense, she did not sleep all night and was very hard working. I am indeed very sleepy. I will go to bed and take a nap. You can wake me up for lunch at noon. Lin Mian yawned and thought about climbing into bed to get some sleep. Okay, then go to sleep. I'm going out to have dinner with my boyfriend, so I won't accompany you. I'll come back at noon to take you to a good meal. Mu Dao happily turned around in her little skirt, the delicate makeup on her face glowing, making her look particularly sweet. Lin Mian couldn't help but pursed her lips and teased her. Having dinner with your idol? Are you sure you're not on a date? The love bubbles in your eyes are about to pop out. You've never been in a relationship, so you don't understand. The contact during the ambiguous period is the best, especially the tacit feeling of pulling each other. It's not fun when you're in love. Mu Dao raised her eyebrows and leaned over the bed to suggest to Lin Mian, Mian, I strongly suggest that you find a boyfriend and have a relationship. Otherwise, an honest girl like you will most likely fail in relationships in the future. Lin Mian pursed her lips and smiled. I'm very busy, so I don't want to find a boyfriend. You have never tasted a man before, otherwise you will definitely be addicted. The taste of a man. Lin Mian recalled some unspeakable scenes in his mind. He moved his aching limbs and silently complained in his heart. She is not addicted. After Mu Dao left, Lin Mian was left alone in the dormitory. She changed into her pajamas and was about to take a nap when her cell phone rang. Lin Mian glanced at the name jumping on the screen and immediately picked up the phone happily. Dad, why did you call me? I miss my daughter. Can't I call and ask? Father Lin's kind voice came from the other end of the phone. Of course, no problem. I miss you too, Dad. Is your leg feeling better? Lin Mian sat up holding the phone. The operation was successful. The doctor asked me to stay in the hospital for 3 months. I will be able to walk after I recover. Lin's father. There was indescribable excitement in his voice. After being paralyzed for several years, he can finally stand up like a normal person, and he can't hide his excitement. By the way, Mian, I heard from your mom that you sent the money for my surgery. You're still a college student and haven't even graduated yet, so where did you get such a large sum of money? As expected, only her father noticed her identity as a poor student, while the other people in the Lin family only urged her to send money and never cared where her money came from. Lin Mian grabbed the bed sheet and said in a relaxed manner, "I took a private job a few days ago. The sponsor is very wealthy. This is the design fee he advanced to me. Dad, you don't have to worry. I will start my internship in a month, and then I will be able to earn more money to support you." When Father Lin heard her words, he finally felt relieved. Dad doesn't want you to support him. It's enough if you can take care of yourself. That gold master is good and is willing to advance your salary. You have to follow him and work hard, okay? Thinking about it, her sponsor had already blocked her. Lin Mian nodded awkwardly, "I know." After chatting for a few sentences, the doctor on the other end of the phone began to urge Lin's father to do rehabilitation training, and Lin's father had to end the call reluctantly. After hanging up the phone, Lin Mian breathed a sigh of relief. Her finger accidentally swiped to the address book and caught a glimpse of the familiar phone number on it. It was Shilin's number that she had bombarded before. She stared at her phone for a long time and deleted Shilin's WeChat and number. The transaction is completed and the payment is made. She will no longer have any contact with him. Just consider this as a small episode in her life. Chapter 17, Encountering Him Again. In the next few days, Lin Mian threw himself into his busy studies again. Time passed quickly, and her life returned to its previous peace, so peaceful that she even thought that the absurd things that happened before were all a dream. In the blink of an eye, it was the internship period. During this period, Song Ziyuan ran into Lin Mian several times, but his attitude became much more restrained. Apart from making a few jokes, he didn't dare to touch her. It seems that his uncle has a strong deterrent effect. Lin Mian has been looking for a house these days. She was going to do an internship, and it happened to be summer vacation, so the school dormitory would be closed and she needed to find a house to move out. Lin Mian was originally planning to share a house with Mu Dao, but Mu Dao established a relationship with her ambiguous boyfriend and they became boyfriend and girlfriend, and the two of them lived together intimately. Lin Mian didn't want to disturb them, so he had to go look for them alone. There is a demolished community near the school. It looks a bit old and dilapidated. There are many rental houses in it. Because of the low prices, many newly graduated students live there. It took Lin Mian half a day to find a small single room with one bedroom and one bathroom. It was simple. Although it was a little small and she could not move her legs, she was still very happy. Because this was her first small room of her own in the true sense. After paying the rent and deposit, she moved in that night with her luggage, packed up her things briefly and went to bed. Buzz buzz buzz. Their cell phone rang suddenly. Lin Mian got up from the bed, glanced at the name flashing on the screen, and immediately sat up straight. It's Qin Li's call. Hello, Teacher Qin. Qin Li's voice came faintly from the other end of the phone. Lin Mian, I heard that you moved out today and don't live in the school anymore. Yes, Teacher Qin, I found a small house so that it will be convenient for me to live in when I go to work. Lin Mian answered truthfully. Because she was chosen for the internship this month, she had more contact with Qin Li and was mostly preparing for the internship. Well, I just happened to start a project. You can come to work starting tomorrow. I'll have someone go through the entry procedures for you. Qin Li made everything clear to her. Okay, thank you Teacher Qin, I will report on time tomorrow. Lin Mian responded promptly. After hanging up the phone, she rolled around on the bed with joy. Qin Li's company is a well-known architectural design group in the city. If she could get in smoothly, she would have a bright future. Maybe by then there will be a landmark building designed by her in North City. Lin Mian thought hopefully and gradually fell asleep. The next day, Lin Mian woke up early and took the subway to Qin Group. Since it was her first day at work, she was a little nervous. She put on some light makeup in the morning and didn't even have breakfast. The onboarding process went smoothly. The front desk colleague helped her familiarize herself with the company environment and then arranged a workstation for her. Ms. Lin, this is your workstation. Your immediate supervisor is our CEO Qin. He will personally guide you. Just wait here for a moment. Lin Mian nodded and thanked him politely. Thank you. You're welcome. President Qin will be here soon. Please familiarize yourself with the environment first. After the front desk finished arranging all their work, they turned around and left. Lin Mian sat at her workstation and looked around. There were few people in this office, and there was basically no one at the workstation. Next to her was Qin Li's office. The door of the room is closed and no one is there. Her position is more like that of a junior assistant. It is a great fortune to be Qin Li's assistant. Soon, Qin Li arrived. He was still wearing light gray casual clothes today, with one hand in his pocket, a smile on his face, looking lazy. Mian Mian, good morning. Lin Mian immediately stood up and greeted him. Good morning, Mr. Qin. Don't be so formal. You are my student, so just be casual. Have you completed all the employment procedures? Qin Li asked. Lin Mian nodded. It's all done. That's perfect. Come with me. I have a design project today. I'll take you out for some exercise. Qin Li waved his hand, motioning her to follow. There was a project to participate in on the first day of internship. Lin Mian was excited and secretly happy. She hurriedly followed Qin Li actively. Half an hour later, Qin Li's car stopped in front of Beicheng Hospital. Lin Mian looked at the familiar building and inexplicably felt his heart beating faster. This hospital. Mian Mian, follow me. Qin Li had already gotten out of the car. Lin Mian came to his senses and quickly pushed the car to follow him. Qin Li walked along the path with a familiar look, and said to her, Our current project is to be responsible for the renovation of the hospital's building and the redesign of its interior, so I'll take you here to check out the area first, and later you'll have to follow the designer to measure it. Lin Mian nodded seriously. I remember it. She followed Qin Li around, looking at the interior design of the entire hospital, and finally arrived at the internal medicine building. Lin Mian was so engrossed in watching that he walked towards the corridor unconsciously. When passing a stairwell, she raised her hand, pushed the door open and looked inside. The next second, she was caught off guard by a pair of cold and deep eyes. Is it him? Lin Mian's heart suddenly stopped. Chapter 18. How does it hurt? The man was wearing a white coat and sitting on the stairs. He had a cigarette between his long, bony fingers, and the sparks were flickering in the dim light. He raised his eyes, stared at her casually, and blew out a smoke ring. Looking for me? His voice was cold and dull, with a hint of laziness and hoarseness from smoking. Even when he suddenly saw her in such a place, he didn't look surprised at all. Lin Mian quickly shook his head and said hello reluctantly. What a coincidence, Dr. Shi, I'm here to work, and my internship project happens to be in this hospital. Afraid that he didn't believe her, she deliberately shook the measuring tool in her hand to prove that she was not pestering him. In her impression, a man like him would hate being entangled by women the most. Shalin's eyes fell on the tools in her hand. He looked at them for 2 seconds without saying anything. Instead, he raised his hand to put out the cigarette and gave her the measuring position in the corridor. Measure it. He uttered 2 words concisely. Lin Mian immediately understood, thanked him, and then walked into the corridor with the tools. Just at this moment, Qin Li followed in from behind. When he saw Shalin, his handsome eyebrows raised. Hey, Dr. Shi, why aren't you sitting in for consultation right now? Are you slacking off here? Shalin rubbed his brows and said in his usual cold tone, I just finished an operation and came out to get some fresh air. Qin Li understood. I understand. Being a doctor is stressful. It's normal for you to relax and vent occasionally. Lin Mian was working in the back while listening with his ears perked up. It turns out that a calm and composed doctor like him can also have mental stress. No wonder he is so wild in bed every time. He probably vents his feelings in bed. By the way, let me introduce you. This is my little apprentice named Lin Mian. You met him last time in Bafang City. Do you still remember him? Qin Li introduced enthusiastically. Shalin glanced at Lin Mian and was speechless. Not only have I seen him, I've also slept with him. Mian Mian is a very honest child. She will come to the hospital for measurements often in the future. Please take good care of her for me. Qin Li blinked and greeted him. Shalin's eyes paused, and he nodded lightly, his voice even and even. Got it, time's up, I have to go to see patients. He turned around and wanted to go out, but Qin Li suddenly slapped his forehead and turned to Lin Mian and said, Oh, Mian, you have a stomachache, right? It's a good opportunity to ask Dr. Shi to take a look at you. He has to see patients anyway. He accidentally noticed that Lin Mian had a stomachache in the morning and she kept holding her belly. After asking her, he found out that it was an old problem of hers. However, Lin has superb medical skills, so he can help with the diagnosis. When Lin Mian heard this, she was immediately horrified and quickly waved her hand to refuse. No need, Teacher Qin, this is an old illness of mine, no need to trouble the doctor. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Lin raise his eyelids and asked casually, "Oh? How does it hurt?" "This sounds so familiar," he asked the same question last time. Lin Mian immediately became embarrassed, and her ears felt slightly hot. "It's just a stomach problem, an old problem. Your stomach problems also need to be treated properly. Let Dr. Shi prescribe some medicine for you and take good care of yourself." Qin Li echoed from the side. "Okay, then let's go to my office," Lin said. Now, Lin Mian didn't even have the chance to refuse, and was enthusiastically pulled by Qin Li to go to Lin's office. It was still the same clinic as last time. In just a few days, 2 more banners appeared on the wall, both of which were banners of gratitude presented by family members. Lin Mian looked at the words silently and felt a little more respect for his medical skills. His medical skills are indeed very good. Last time she had a stomachache, the medicine he prescribed was cheap and effective. She showed obvious improvement after just 1 meal. "Sit down and hold your wrists out." Hearing the man's words, Lin Mian sat down obediently and stretched out her wrist. Lin raised his hand and pressed his warm and powerful fingertips on her pulse. The force was not light, but heavy, and there was an indescribable feeling of oppression. Lin Mian subconsciously held his breath and dared not move. She had always thought he was a Western doctor, but she didn't expect that he could actually take pulses. She had always had an inexplicable admiration for Chinese medicine. At this moment, she saw the man's clear facial features, his serious and focused expression, and the warmth emanating from his fingertips. Her face felt a little hot. Lin listened carefully to her pulse, his eyes involuntarily falling on her wrist. The woman was very thin and very white. Her almost transparent skin allowed one to see her blue veins. Her wrists were so thin and soft that they seemed like they could be broken with one hand. If they were in bed, he could hold both of her wrists with one hand. Lin's eyes gradually became dim. Even the force seemed to increase slightly. Chapter 19. Are you afraid of me? It was not until he sensed her looming emotions that he came to his senses and let go of her hand with a calm expression. "My heart is beating a little fast." He raised his eyelids. "Why are you so nervous?" Lin Mian's ears suddenly turned red. "I didn't." As expected, there are no secrets in front of Chinese medicine. Even the accelerated heartbeat was diagnosed by him. The spleen is weak, the dampness is heavy, and the gastrointestinal function is weak. Lin continued, "Eating junk food is not good for the stomach, especially instant noodles." Lin Mian didn't expect that he could even see this, and even accurately know what food she had eaten. "Mian, do you usually eat instant noodles?" Qin Li asked her. Lin Mian admitted sheepishly, "When I was too busy studying, I just made do with a bite. Maybe I ate a little too much." "That won't do. Your health is the capital of revolution. You are young and this is the time to take care of your body. How can you just make do with it? No wonder you have a stomachache." Qin Li frowned and said, "Lin, please give her some stomach medicine. I think this girl works so hard that she doesn't care about anything. She might eat instant noodles next time." Lin typed a few words on the computer, and then said lightly, "You need to take care of your stomach, and taking medicine is useless." He paused and added, "But if this continues, it will easily develop into duodenal ulcer, chronic gastritis, pancreatitis and gastric cancer." Hearing the word gastric cancer, Lin Mian raised her eyes in fear, and met the man's half-smiling eyes. His teasing look was no different from the last time he explained to her the dangers of selling eggs. They were all trying to scare her. Lin Mian bit her lip and nodded sullenly, "I understand. I will eat well." After all, the word cancer is still very intimidating when it comes from the doctor's mouth. She is a normal person, so of course she is afraid of death. That's perfect. It's time for dinner. Mian, come with me to eat. I remember there's a restaurant nearby that serves pretty good home-cooked food. It's perfect for nourishing your stomach. Qin Li looked at the time and enthusiastically took Lin Mian downstairs to eat. Before leaving, he casually asked Lin, "Do you want to come with us?" Lin stood up, "Okay." "Qin Li, No, did he hear it wrong just now? Shalin was always a workaholic when he was in the hospital. He would never leave the building all day long, and he couldn't even make an appointment for a lunch break. He wanted to be polite, but he didn't expect Shalin to agree so readily. Is this still the doctor who was so popular? Are you still not leaving? Shalin had taken off his white coat, revealing a neatly tailored white shirt underneath. He was not wearing a tie, and 2 buttons on his collar were undone, revealing a small piece of his collarbone, adding a touch of sexiness to his abstinence. Lin Mian looked at it for a few seconds and then looked away in panic. It has to be said that this man is so attractive that she always looks at him unconsciously. Once she sees him, those exciting scenes will unconsciously emerge in her mind. Her ears felt even hotter. Okay, then take my car and go together. Qin Li raised his eyebrows and waved at Lin Mian. Mian, follow me, we will treat Dr. Shi to a meal today, just as the payment for his pulse diagnosis. Lin Mian hurriedly followed behind Qin Li, keeping her head down to avoid him the whole time, and even sat in the passenger seat when getting in the car, leaving Shalin sitting alone in the back seat. It wasn't that she didn't like him. But, she always remembered his attitude. He blocked her, meaning he didn't want to have anything to do with her. So she always kept a distance from him and acted as if she was unfamiliar with him. After all, if she took his money, she had to abide by his requirements. This restaurant is not far away, in the commercial district near the hospital. Qin Li ordered a lot of things. In order to take care of Lin Mian, most of the meals he ordered were stomach-nourishing meals. He also specially asked Shalin for advice at the table. While eating, he kept picking up food for Lin Mian. Mian, eat more. You're too thin. If you work in our field, you'll have to run around a lot. You need to be stronger to be more resilient. Lin Mian was flattered and nodded repeatedly. Thank you, Teacher Qin, I can do it myself. Okay, eat as much as you want. You're welcome. Qin Li looked at her with a smile as if he was looking at a girl from a training program. Lin Mian began to eat the rice in the bowl consciously. It seemed that the dishes recommended by Shalin were very appetizing. She added vegetable soup and finished a bowl of rice. She felt much better in her stomach. After dinner, Qin Li went to pay the bill. Lin Mian took advantage of the break to go to the bathroom. As soon as she came out after washing her hands, a tall and familiar figure leaned against the bathroom door, blocking her way. When Lin Mian saw the man's face clearly, her pupils dilated instantly and she felt a little uneasy. You? Are you afraid of me? Shalin turned his head, his dark and deep eyes staring at her directly. Chapter 20. Are you hiding from me because you hooked someone else? Why are you so nervous seeing me? He asked her straight to the point. I didn't. Lin Mian just felt embarrassed. The transaction relationship between the two of them was not open to the public. If she didn't hide away, would she greet him openly? Shalin obviously didn't want to let her go. He raised his foot and walked towards her step by step. His tall and slender body pressed her against the sink. Lin Mian subconsciously stepped back until his lower back hit the marble countertop, leaving him with no way to retreat. The man lowered his head slightly, and his angular face approached her. Are you hiding from me because you hooked someone else? He is more generous than me and gave you a higher price. Lin Mian suddenly opened her eyes wide and understood what he meant in a second. He is my leader and teacher. It's not the kind of relationship you think. There is nothing innocent between us. Lin Mian couldn't help but explain. Although she was timid, cowardly and socially anxious, she would not allow others to desecrate Qin Li in this way. Qin Li is the most gentle and kind teacher she has ever met. Shalin sneered at her words. He approached her again, his powerful aura enveloping her, and every word he spoke was filled with advice. Qin Li is not someone you can mess with, understand? Lin Mian frowned, not understanding what he meant. Shalin took a step forward, raised his hand to pinch her chin, and whispered every word into her ears. If you need money again, I can allow you to come to me to make a deal. After all, we are old acquaintances, and we are very compatible in bed. If you perform well, I will increase your price. Lin Mian's face suddenly turned red. She raised her hand and pushed him away forcefully, only to feel her ears burning and her head buzzing. It's over between us. Let's end it here. After she finished speaking, she fled out of the bathroom in a panic. Even after leaving the hall, her heart was still pounding in her chest. Lin Mian reached out and patted her red face, trying to calm herself down. She was actually teased by a man with dirty jokes in the toilet. He seems to be a gentle and abstinent doctor, but I didn't expect him to speak so bluntly. Just at this moment, Shalin also walked out of the bathroom. When Qin Li came back after paying the bill, he saw Lin Mian's appearance and couldn't help but blame Shalin. What were you doing just now? Why did you make my assistant's face turn red? She is thin-skinned and a good girl. Don't tease her. Shalin pulled his lips and murmured softly, really, good boy. So obedient that she climbed into his bed on her own initiative in the middle of the night, so obedient that she slept with him twice. Qin Li came to the rescue and said, Mian, ignore him. He is just like that. He is straightforward and has no emotional intelligence. Don't bother with him. Lin Mian didn't dare to argue with him. She didn't even have time to hide. When they were leaving, the man's slender arm accidentally touched her hand. Lin Mian quickly retracted her fingers, feeling as if an electric current had passed through her. She wasn't sure if he did it on purpose. But her senses are extremely sensitive now. It seemed that as soon as she met him, all her calmness and composure collapsed, and even the pores on her body expanded twice as much. It was really strange. In the afternoon, Qin Li sent them to their hospital, answered a phone call and left. Before leaving, he handed Lin Mian to another master to help take care of her, and Lin Mian followed the master to continue her surveying work. Since the layout of the entire hospital was to be overhauled, Lin Mian was responsible for the measurement data of the entire third floor. Among them was the entire internal medicine office, as well as the clinic where Shalin worked. Lin Mian took his time to measure all the buildings and terrain on the third floor, and then slowly came to Shalin's clinic. Fortunately, the man had a patient in front of him and couldn't take care of her for the time being. After explaining the reason, Lin Mian took his tools and started working hard. With a glance, she saw the examination bed in the inner room. Lin Mian couldn't help but think of the last time she lay on it, with her clothes lifted up and him pressing on her stomach. The strength and temperature of the man's fingers seemed to be still engraved on her lower abdomen, warm, heavy, and thick. Her face flushed slightly and she looked away unnoticeably. Lin Mian continued to devote himself to his work. She was short, holding a ruler in one hand and standing on tiptoe to reach the ceiling. Her short t-shirt was lifted up by her movement, revealing half of her fair waist. It's so thin that it seems like it can be broken by one hand. Shalin sent the patient away and glanced at her inconspicuously. Just one look and I couldn't look away. Chapter 21. Folding into different positions. She has a slender waist and a slim figure. Her skin looks even whiter and more delicate against the black t-shirt. One glance at her is enough to make you unable to look away. Shalin's eyes fell on her slender waist, then her hips, calves, and ankles. Each one can be pinched in the hand and folded into different postures. He suddenly thought that she had many positions in bed that he had not tried yet. He didn't think they were interesting before, but now he wanted to try them all with her. The sight of a woman being pressed under someone's body and crying bitterly can arouse the most primitive animal nature in a man. Lin Mian didn't notice the man's aggressive gaze at all. After she took the measurements and wrote them down in a notebook, she was about to put away her tools when her foot suddenly slipped and she fell forward. Lin Mian opened his eyes wide and screamed subconsciously. Just as she was about to fall, a large hand suddenly reached out from behind her and gently grasped her waist. The man's handsome face was right in front of her, his white coat was close to her, and her nose was filled with the faint smell of disinfectant. Thank you. Lin Mian blushed, propped herself up and thanked him. However, Shalin did not let her go. He held her waist with his big hands and asked a question that seemed to be inexplicably caused. Aren't you short of money recently? Lin Mian was stunned for a moment, but he quickly realized what he meant and his face became uncontrollably embarrassed. She pushed Shalin away with all her strength, kept a distance from him, and said in a firm tone. No, I won't be short of it anymore. Dr. Shah, thank you for helping me when I was in trouble, but it was just a deal. Let's end it here. Shalin had expected her to say this, and there was no fluctuation on his cold face. Just at this moment, Lin Mian's cell phone rang. She glanced at the screen and saw that it was her mother calling. Lin Mian didn't want to stay here any longer, so she packed up her toolbox and hurriedly fled the clinic holding her cell phone. The clinic was empty. Shalin looked at his empty palms, took a deep breath, and suppressed the inexplicable anger in his heart. She was just a young girl, and it was only 2 short nights, but he was inexplicably addicted. It's really like seeing a ghost. In the empty corridor, Lin Mian was sitting in the stairwell holding her cell phone, and a familiar voice came from the receiver. Your brother has found a job as a programmer and will be able to start in half a month, but he wants a 60,000 yuan introduction fee. I heard from your father that you are a famous designer now? Try to get some money together and send it to me. Lin Mian felt overwhelmed after hearing this. Mom, I just started working, how can I have so much money? Pretend. Your school is full of top students. I heard that they all make millions a year after graduation. How come you have no money? You can't even take out 60,000 yuan. Lin Mian explained with a headache, I am just a designer assistant now, with a fixed salary, and I am still in the learning stage. How can it be easy to make money? My brother started working earlier than me, so he should have some savings, right? When Lin's mother on the other side heard this, she became even more angry. I don't care. If you can raise enough money for your father's surgery, you have to raise money for your brother. You are college student supported by your whole family. You can't just ignore the two boys in our family. Lin Mian. Mother Lin continued to scold her, I tell you, either you send me the money, or you come back to get married. The girl next door, Xiao Zhao, has 300,000 yuan as a gift for her marriage. What's the point of having a poor girl like you? Lin Mian became angrier and angrier as she listened, and mustered up the courage to retort, I'm not going back. She had studied hard for 12 years and finally escaped from that suffocating place. She would never go back and get married. In the past, she was scolded and bullied because of her father, but she endured it. But now that daddy's leg has healed, she doesn't want to endure it any longer. You little bitch, you're rebelling, aren't you? You've grown wings and dare to challenge me. If you're brave enough, come back here and I'll beat you to death. The person on the other end of the phone was still cursing and extremely emotional, as if he was going to tear her apart alive in the next second. Lin Mian hung up the phone cruelly. The world is finally quiet. She leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. It took her a long time to recover. Although she was used to those unpleasant words, she still couldn't help feeling uncomfortable and suffocated every time after making a phone call. The cell phone kept ringing, like a death warrant. I will not give up until she accepts it. Lin Mian simply turned off the phone. She sat in the corridor for a while, calmed herself down, and then went out carrying the toolbox. It turned out to be lunchtime, and as soon as I went out, I ran into Shalin, who was coming out of get off work at the elevator entrance. With his hands in his pockets, he and Lu Zibai were waiting for the elevator slowly. At this time, he had taken off his white coat and was wearing a grey casual suit. His long legs were straight and his aura was cool. It easily attracted the attention of a group of young nurses. Chapter 22 I slept twice and became addicted. While he wasn't aware of her, Lin Mian quickly changed direction and went to the other end of the corridor to take the elevator. Mian, I've been looking for you so hard. Why is your phone turned off? It's almost time for dinner, and President Qin asked me to take you to dinner on time. As soon as she got on the elevator, she bumped into Chen Qian, the designer who was accompanying her today. Lin Mian smiled apologetically, I'm sorry, Sister Qian, my phone turned off automatically. I was planning to find you in the cafeteria. That's just right. Come with me to the cafeteria. Mr. Qin said you have a bad stomach and asked me to watch you eat. Chen Qian took her arm and they walked out of the elevator together. Because they are staff members, the hospital has issued them canteen cards, so they can swipe the cards to eat at mealtimes. Lin Mian took the food tray, found a seat and sat down, and ate with Chen Qian. There was suddenly a commotion around, as if someone was discussing a certain person. She looked up curiously at the source of the sound and saw the cold figure in the crowd. He actually came to the cafeteria to eat? It's somewhat inconsistent with his temperament. Not far away, Shalin was standing in front of the window getting his meal. There were only a few simple dishes. He held the plate in one hand and found a nearby seat to sit down, not far from Lin Mian. When sitting down at the table, Shalin suddenly looked up, raised his eyelids and glanced at Lin Mian. That look was quite meaningful. Lin Mian felt his gaze and quickly lowered her head to avoid him, concentrating on eating. Chen Qian, who was standing next to her, started chatting with her about gossip. Mian, the handsome guy at 10 o'clock on your upper left just glanced at you. Do you know him? Lin Mian knew who she was talking about without even looking up, and quickly denied it. I don't know. He is a recognized beauty and an aesthetic handsome guy. It was such a great opportunity for you to go to the third floor for measurement today. It's a pity that you didn't meet him. Chen sighed. An abstinent handsome guy. Lin Mian stuffed rice into his mouth and complained silently in his heart. When he was in bed privately, he was not abstinent at all. He played in all kinds of ways, and was more exciting than anyone else. Mian, let me tell you, we designers need to be more flexible. Next time if you run into those two handsome guys, add them on WeChat. Just by looking at their clothes, you can tell they are wealthy. These are our potential high-quality customers. Do you understand? Chen gave her an ideological lesson. This girl is obedient and gentle, and good in every way, except that she is a little timid and doesn't know how to take the initiative. Yeah, I see. Thank you, Sister Chen. Lin Mian agreed sincerely on the surface, but actually sighed in his heart. It is impossible to add WeChat. People have blocked her on WeChat a long time ago. Building connections is really a hard job. At the other table, Lu Jibai teased Shalin with great interest. Today is really a day of bad luck. Our director Sha, who has never been to the cafeteria for a long time, actually took the initiative to treat me to a meal. His motive is too obvious. Shalin picked at the food on the plate nonchalantly and said calmly, "Oh? What motive could I have? Keep pretending." Lu Jibai sneered at him, 10 minutes have passed since we entered the cafeteria, and you've glanced at the girl no less than 3 times. Sima Zhao's intention is obvious. Are you here to eat, or to eat people? Shalin curled his lower lip and said nothing. Seeing that he rarely gave any explanation, Lu Jibai understood. How come you're addicted after sleeping with her twice? Are you tempted to do something evil? Eat your meal and don't ask questions that are not necessary. Shalin blocked his mouth. Look at you, you're an old man in your 20s, why are you shy? If you like to sleep, then you like to sleep. That girl looks silly, but I didn't expect that she could keep you thinking about her. Could it be that she is very good in bed, with many tricks and good taste? Lu Jibai was eager to try. He also wanted to have a taste of what it's like to be a young college student. Shalin felt inexplicably upset after listening to his words. He put down his chopsticks, frowned slightly, and gave him a faint warning. It's better for both of us not to sleep with the same woman. Why? Diaphragm. Lu Jibai. Chapter 23, Shalin is not interested in women? Because of the phone call yesterday, Lin Mian was absent-minded the whole day. During this period, she did not dare to delay the progress of her work and turned on her mobile phone for a while. As soon as she turned it on, she was bombarded with calls from Lin's mother, and the ringtone rang one after another. She had no choice but to continue turning off the phone. She finished the measurement of the 3rd floor yesterday and stayed on the 6th floor all day today. She didn't see Shalin again. After get off work in the evening, Qin suddenly appeared in the hospital and came to pick up Lin Mian in person. Teacher Qin, why are you here? Lin Mian was quite surprised to see him. I'm done with my work, so I came here to pick you up for dinner. You always don't eat well, which makes me worry. How can I not keep an eye on you? Qin said half-jokingly. Lin Mian felt very embarrassed. She had only been working for 2 days, but she was already eating Qin meals, and every meal was as good as that at a big restaurant. When she was in school, she wouldn't have dared to do this for a whole year. Teacher Qin, my stomach isn't that fragile. The hospital gave me a canteen card, so I've had good meals these past 2 days. It's not good to keep asking you to spend money. Oh, it's just a little money, it's not a big deal. Qin waved his hand, not taking it seriously at all. Since I'm here, my little disciple, please do me a favor and have a meal with me today. Since he said so, Lin Mian certainly couldn't refuse and simply nodded. Okay, then when I get my salary, I will definitely treat Teacher Qin to a meal. Then I'll remember that you owe me a meal. Qin laughed heartily, then picked up Lin Mian's toolbox himself and walked out with her. Teacher Qin, please let me carry the toolbox. Lin Mian was really scared and panicked. What did it mean to ask her boss to carry tools for her? This thing is heavy enough. There's no point in letting a girl carry it when there's a man here. Qin raised his lips and said in a very easygoing manner, just follow me, get used to it, and don't feel too stressed. Lin Mian felt flattered. Teacher Qin is a really nice person. She is the most easygoing and kindest teacher she has ever met. She silently cheered herself up in her heart. Lin Mian, come on, work hard and repay teacher Qin. When they arrived at the underground garage, Qin Li had just started the engine when a black Land Rover squeezed in from the front. The license plate number was so familiar that Qin Li rolled down the window and greeted him. Dr. Shi, are you off work already? Shalin glimpsed Lin Mian in the passenger seat through the lowered car window. His eyes froze for 2 seconds, and he replied calmly, yeah. Qin Li said, Mian Mian and I are going to Xiangye Pavilion for dinner. Do you want to go? Do you want to join us? Shalin's eyes once again slid over Lin Mian, who was sitting in the passenger seat. The girl didn't even want to look at him and she glanced away deliberately, her intention to avoid suspicion being obvious. Oh, you don't like him that much? As if he was some kind of monster. Shalin pursed his lips and looked away coldly. No, I have something to do. Qin Li didn't ask any more questions and nodded. Okay, you go ahead and do your work. The two cars drove out of the garage one after the other. The black Land Rover quickly disappeared in the traffic. Lin Mian, sitting in the passenger seat, breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart was at ease. Luckily, he wasn't there. Otherwise, the pressure is too great. She always felt that when she was with Qin Li, Shalin's eyes looked at her with a kind of sharpness that made her feel uneasy. By the way, Mian Mian, did you and Shalin know each other before? Qin Li asked suddenly. Lin Mian's heart skipped a beat and she shook her head. No, I don't know him. Why did teacher Qin ask that? Nothing, I just think there's something wrong with the way he looks at you. Qin Li smiled, but I know him, he has a cold and indifferent personality, like boiled water, he doesn't like women, he's very boring, he probably won't do anything to you. Lin Mian pursed her lips and dared not say a word. She suddenly realized that they didn't seem to understand Shalin very well. At least in terms of not being close to women. Half an hour later, the car stopped in front of Xiangye Pavilion. Qin Li had already booked a table, and Lin Mian followed him in. The style of this restaurant was more upscale than the last time. Beautiful piano music was floating in the restaurant, and the waiters were polite. It was Lin Mian's first time in such a high-end restaurant, so she inevitably felt a little awkward. Qin Li took good care of her. He introduced the local specialties to her and helped her order a few dishes, eliminating Lin Mian's choice-making difficulties. The waiter left with the menu. Not long after, two figures suddenly appeared at the next table. Because they were too eye-catching, Lin Mian raised his head and took a quick glance. This glance made me feel uneasy. Chapter 24 His Always Haunting. The man was wearing a white shirt and a black suit, sitting casually in his seat. He was very handsome and cool, and could easily attract the attention of the opposite sex around him. That cold and dull profile was engraved in her bones at a glance. Sitting opposite him was a beautiful woman with delicate makeup, tall stature, and wearing a sexy black dress. She looked very intimate. Shalin handed her the menu, and she smiled sweetly and lowered her head to order. Lin Mian subconsciously looked away. Hey, Dr. Shi, I was wondering why you didn't come to dinner with us. Turns out your girlfriend had a date. Qin Li also saw them and walked over with a smirk on his face to tease them. Shalin curled his lips slightly and said without comment, I heard you said this restaurant is good, so I came here to try it. Qin Li chuckled, this restaurant has light food, which is good for the stomach. I brought Mian Mian here specially. Oh, it seems that President Qin cares a lot about his little disciple. Just to keep his stomach healthy, he has to run so far to eat. Shalin glanced at Lin Mian meaningfully. Lin Mian just felt that there was something else behind his words and didn't want to pay any attention to him. As for my own little apprentice, I naturally have to pay more attention to her. She is my only talent to be nurtured. Qin Li blinked his eyes and achieved a great result with little effort. Okay, I won't disturb your date. Let's eat our own food. Shalin pursed his lips and looked away unnoticeably. Qin Li returned to his seat, and the dishes were served one after another, so the two began to eat. Lin Mian felt like he was consuming a thorn in his back during the meal. From her angle, she could just see the man next to her glancing at her from time to time, somewhat intentionally. Their eyes accidentally met several times, and she always hastily avoided them. For some reason, the more she tried to avoid him, the more he haunted her. It's like metaphysics, very confusing. Mian Mian? Qin Li on the opposite side called her, and Lin Mian quickly came back to her senses. Do you like sweets? I see that you have almost finished all the cakes on this plate. Their other dishes are also good. You can try them all. Qin Li picked up some food for her. Lin Mian was flattered. Thank you, Teacher Qin. You've already graduated, so you don't have to call me Teacher Qin. Just call me by my name. Qin Li has a casual and gentle temperament. He is humble and has no airs at all, which makes people feel approachable for some reason. Lin Mian looked terrified. How can I do that? This is too disrespectful to you. I'd better call you Mr. Qin like other colleagues. She heard people in the company call him that. You are different. I personally teach you. We should distinguish you from me. Why don't you call me master? It will make us seem closer. Qin Li suggested with a smile. He said so, and Lin Mian nodded obediently. Okay, master. As a newcomer in the design industry, she really needs a good master to guide her in learning. She was already very grateful to have the honor of being chosen by Qin Li, and was naturally happy to have him as her master. After the meal, Qin Li went to pay the bill. Lin Mian immediately got up and left with him. When passing by Shilin's seat, Qin Li greeted him. Lin Mian lowered her head, not daring to look into the man's eyes. He was dating another woman, and she felt guilty if she looked at him for even a second longer, as if he was having an affair. The meal is out. Store, Qin Li received a call, which sounded urgent. Mian Mian, where do you live? I'll take you back first. Lin Mian knew that he was in a hurry, so she said sensibly, I live quite far away, and the traffic jam at this time will waste too much time. Master, you go ahead and do your work. I'll take the bus back. How can this be possible? I brought you out, so of course I have to send you back. Qin Li insisted. Really, there's no need. It's much faster to take the bus. Things have their priorities. I can't delay your urgent matter. Lin Mian waved his hands repeatedly. Qin Li wanted to say something, but the phone rang again. He could only compromise first. Thank you for your hard work. Call me when you get back and let me know you are safe. Yeah, got it. Qin Li drove away in a hurry. Lin Mian checked the route and went to the nearby bus stop to wait for the bus. From a distance, she saw two figures walking out of the restaurant door. A tall woman got into Shilin's car, and then the car started, and a white Land Rover drove past her. Lin Mian subconsciously lowered his head and hid himself. It seems that he has a new love and will not look for her again. The Land Rover drove for a while, and Shilin suddenly stopped the car and said to the woman without changing his expression. I have something else to do. I can't take you today. You can take a taxi by yourself. I will reimburse you for the cost. The woman was a little reluctant. Dr. Shi, you have already treated me to a meal, I will treat you to a movie in a private theater. Is there anything that can't be discussed after the movie is over? Shilin frowned and said, Who said I wanted to watch a movie with you? I just wanted to have a meal with you and complete the task my family gave me. Don't think too much about it. The woman couldn't believe it. You. Get off. Chapter 25 Lin Mian, you are being stubborn, aren't you? The woman didn't expect him to change his expression so quickly. But she couldn't afford to offend the man in front of her, let alone get entangled with him. His methods were feared by people in the circle, not to mention that he was born in the Shi family in Beijing, a family with a powerful character. It is better to stay away from this kind of man than to offend him, otherwise you won't even know how he died. The woman had no choice but to get out of the car and leave in disappointment. Shilin turned the steering wheel, went back, and finally stopped next to the bus stop. Sure enough, I saw Lin Mian hadn't left yet, standing alone there waiting for the bus. Get in the car. He rolled down the window and spoke briefly. Lin Mian was surprised for a second when she saw him, then looked into his car and found that the passenger seat was empty. Did that woman just leave? What does he mean, seamless? Lin Mian didn't want to go up for a moment, so she shook her head and refused him. I'll take the bus back. Shilin continued, Come up, I have something to ask you. What could there be between him and her? Lin Mian would never believe him. She took 2 steps back, her resistance obvious. She just didn't want to get in his car. Shilin was a little impatient. Lin Mian, don't you understand what I'm saying? Lin Mian pursed her lips and leaned her back against the bus stop sign, not moving an inch or saying a word. Stubborn and stubborn. If she didn't get in the car, he wouldn't leave, and the two of them just wasted time like that. Until the car behind started to urge us forward, honking its horn. But Shalin seemed not to hear her. He didn't move at all and just waited for her. Girl, please get in the car quickly. If you two have anything to say, please get in the car and argue. Don't block the road. That's right, there is no morality. The driver behind started to urge at the top of his voice, which attracted a wave of complaints from other drivers. Lin Mian was thin-skinned and couldn't wait any longer, so he had to compromise, open the car door and get in. She originally wanted to sit in the back, but after pulling the door for a long time, it didn't budge, so she had no choice but to resign herself to opening the passenger seat and sitting in. Fasten your seat belts. Shalin reminded her. Lin Mian pulled the seat belt and fastened it, and the Land Rover drove out of the bus stop at a whoosh. After they passed an intersection and waited for the traffic light, Shalin suddenly asked her, "What is your relationship with Qin Li?" Lin Mian didn't react, ? Shalin snorted coldly, "Xiangya Pavilion is a high-end restaurant. A dinner there can be worth half a month's salary for you. Do you think Qin Li cares so much about everyone?" Lin Mian frowned and explained, "He said that since I am his apprentice, he will take better care of me. This kind of nonsense can only fool a foolish college student like her." Shalin tapped the steering wheel with his fingers, saying coldly, "I'm warning you again, stay away from him." Why? Lin Mian found him puzzled. It's not his turn to interfere in the relationship between her and Qin Li, right? The transaction had clearly been completed, but why was anyone still meddling in other people's business? She really didn't understand. It's not as simple as you think. Since we've slept together twice, I'm giving you some good advice, Lin Mian. Don't disobey me. Shalin's brows furrowed. Lin Mian was too lazy to talk to him. She couldn't argue with him and he wouldn't listen to her explanation, so she simply shut her mouth and stopped talking. So what if we slept together twice? Aren't we still strangers who have been blocked? The green light came on and the Land Rover was back on the road. Neither of them. Without saying anything, Shalin vaguely realized that this woman seemed obedient on the surface, but was actually very stubborn in her bones. It's just that she has a soft temper and is good at resisting with silence. He pinched his eyebrows with one hand and changed the subject. Where are you moving to? Lin Mian's heart was raised. Why are you asking this? I'll take you back. Shalin glanced at her, feeling a little helpless. Lin Mian looked outside and saw that the car had already reached the viaduct, so she had no choice but to give the address, Wanshuting Community. Shalin searched the navigation, and then recalled that it was a resettlement community with many partitioned houses and a mixed crowd. It was usually very messy. I didn't expect she rented a place like that. He positioned the navigation and drove over. 40 minutes later, the Land Rover stopped downstairs of the community. It was the beginning of the nightlife. Various snack stalls were set up outside the community. The smell of oil smoke floated in the air, and the vendors were shouting at the top of their lungs. Many people came out to drink, eat skewers, and make a lot of noise. Shalin's Land Rover looked out of place in this area. Lin Mian did not let him enter the community, but stopped by the roadside, because the road conditions in the community were even worse and there were many people, and if he was not careful, he would bump into someone. Thank you for taking me back. Goodbye. Lin Mian thanked him politely and tried to open the door and get out of the car. The next second, I heard a click, and the car door was locked. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at the man, her face full of confusion. I'll say it again, stay away from Qin Li and be cautious, understand? He said this over and over again, and Lin Mian was really angry. She took a breath and looked at Shalin with an unhappy tone. Dr. Sha, who I am close to and who I am far away from is my own business. You can't control my interpersonal relationships just because you slept with me twice. You have crossed the line, do you know that? Chapter 26. I really want to hold her down and beat her to death. Shalin didn't expect that she would dare to talk back. His face darkened 2 shades. Lin Mian, you are being stubborn, aren't you? Lin Mian mustered up the courage to continue. I am telling the truth, and teacher Qin Li is so kind to you, but you have repeatedly said bad things about him behind his back and tried to sow discord. Dr. Sha, forgive me for being blunt, but it is you I want to stay away from. Shalin gripped the steering wheel tightly, the veins on his forearms throbbing. Okay, very good. She has become so sharp-tongued, a soft rabbit that bites people without any warning. It seems that her limp look in bed was all fake. Dr. Shi, please unlock the door. Lin Mian said stiffly. Shalin tilted his head and stared at her. In the dim carriage, his eyes were dark and sharp, as if he wanted to see through her inside and out. Lin Mian straightened his back and looked at him without fear. She had been hiding for 2 days and was tired of it. Lin Mian, you are quite courageous. Shalin suddenly sneered and uttered a few words abruptly. With a click, the car lock was opened by him. Lin Mian didn't have time to think about the meaning of his words. She turned the door and jumped out of the car. As if she was afraid that he would chase her, her figure quickly disappeared in the community. Shalin sat in the car and lit a cigarette irritably. After taking a few puffs, he felt even more irritated, so he put out the cigarette. Thinking of the woman's recent chatter, he closed his eyes and uttered a curse word in a low voice. Grass. She's so stubborn, I really want to pin her down and beat her to death. It seems that I was too lenient last time. Lin Mian almost jogged all the way back home. She leaned against the door, patted her chest and let out a long breath. She said those words just now in the heat of the moment. Now thinking about it, they were really too harsh. That man must be so angry that he must die. Never mind. Anyway, he has a new love, so just treat it as a complete breakup and just stay away from him when you see him next time. Lin Mian rushed into the bathroom, took a shower, changed into pajamas, and then lay down on the bed exhausted and turned on her cell phone. As soon as I turned on the phone, countless text messages popped up. There is also a long list of voice bombardment on WeChat. They all come from the same person, Lin's mother. Lin Mian randomly clicked on a few messages, which were filled with obscenities and curses. In the end, he had no choice but to resort to the most shameless threats. You little bastard, don't think you can get away with it just by turning off your phone. If you don't transfer the money to me before tomorrow, I will personally go to your school with a knife and commit suicide. Blood will splatter on the spot. You're the one who forced me to death. I will destroy you even if I die, and let everyone on the internet know what an unfilial person you are. If I die, your father won't have an easy life either. The more she spoke, the more extreme she became, almost going crazy. Lin Mian knew that she was capable of doing such a thing. The first money that Lin's mother asked for from her was by putting a knife to Dad's neck to threaten her. Later, blood flowed out. There was a big cut on Dad's neck, and there was also a big bloody cut on Lin's mother's neck. Blood gushed out, soaking the floor and clothes. They almost lost their lives that time, and she almost got branded as someone who forced her parents to death. Lin Mian has been living in this shadow for these years, but he can't escape it every time. He has to accept it once and for the rest of his life. She closed her eyes, opened WeChat, transferred all the remaining money, and then typed a line of words. That's all I have. If you push me any further, I won't have any more. You can figure out the rest yourself. A few minutes later, the other side collected the payment and finally calmed down. Lin Mian found Qin Li's WeChat and sent him a message saying that he had arrived home. The other party must be very busy and hasn't replied to her for a long time. She turned off her cell phone and buried her head in the quilt. A huge fatigue swept over her body, as if all the blood in her limbs had been drained. In the past, every time she was asked for money, she would hide in her bed and cry secretly. But now, she didn't even have the energy to cry. Bang! Suddenly, there was a door slamming outside. The noise was so loud that Lin Mian was startled. Chapter 27, She would rather die than be ruined. Damn it, that bitch is hooking up with other guys behind my back again. Outside, she could hear the drunken man yelling and cursing, and then there were all kinds of noises of things being thrown, so loud that even her door was shaking. Lin Mian realized that it was the neighbor next door who had returned. She rented a small single room and shared a living room with 2 other neighbors. A middle-aged couple happened to live next door. The man often came home drunk in the middle of the night, swearing and occasionally throwing things. Because of the poor sound insulation, she would be woken up every time. On several occasions, the man smashed wine bottles at her door, causing her to be nervous for half the night. But the rent in such places was cheap, and naturally they were messy and chaotic, so she had no choice. Lin Mian listened to the cursing outside and sighed in her heart. She didn't have the money to rent a better house at the moment, so she had to endure it. The man outside smashed things for a while before gradually quieting down. Lin Mian breathed a sigh of relief and was just about to turn off the lights and go to sleep when there were sudden knocks on her door. Lin Mian was so scared that he sat up from the bed. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking on the door continued. Who? Lin Mian asked vigilantly. A drunken man's tongue-tied voice came from outside. It's me, your neighbor. Little girl, open the door. What do you want? I have something to talk to you about. Open the door and I'll go in and talk to you. It's not convenient for me. If you have anything to say, please talk through the door. Lin Mian was cautious and did not open the door. The man outside became a little impatient and knocked on the door a few more times, bang bang bang, in a loud and careless manner. Little girl, we are all neighbors, why don't we just get to know each other? You open the door first, and let's be friends. You are college student, right? I have never made friends with a college student before. When Lin Mian heard this, his heart instantly rose to his throat. She grabbed the quilt and shouted loudly, I don't want to know you, leave now, or I will call the police. The drunk man outside the door hesitated for a moment, then kicked the door hard and cursed. Damn it, I've been to the police station so many times, and I'm not afraid that you'll call the police. If you have the guts, just call the police. I'm going to break your door down today. Little bitch, I'll fuck you to death. The door was kicked with a deafening noise. Lin Mian got out of bed in fear, grabbed the scissors on the table, and stood by the window trembling. The cursing outside continued and the door handle was rattling, as if the man would break in at any second. A layer of cold sweat broke out on Lin Mian's back. There were no weapons for self-defense in the room. It was on the 10th floor and the other neighbors outside had obviously not returned yet. No one would help her even if she shouted. In a panic, Lin Mian took out his cell phone from the bed and tremblingly pressed 110 to call the police. Little did she know that she was so nervous that her trembling fingers slid to a number in the call log and she closed her eyes and dialed the number. Hello, is this the police station? I'm at 1109, Unit 1, Building 3, One-Shooting Community. Someone is trying to harass me and is banging on the door outside. Just as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang and the door of the room was kicked open by the man. The drunk man outside was drunk and had cloudy eyes. He stared at her as she walked in step by step. Don't come over here. Lin Mian raised the scissors and was frightened. Call out. Har har, go ahead and scream. You'll have plenty of time to scream later. The drunk man rushed towards her with a rough voice. Lin Mian screamed and stabbed the man with the scissors tightly. The man dodged, snatched the scissors from her hand, and pressed her down on the bed. The phone fell to the floor. Lin Mian tried desperately to break free, but was held down tightly by the fat and disgusting man. If you move again, I'll kill you. The man put the tip of the scissors against her neck and said viciously. On the other end of the phone, Lin heard the noise on the phone and his face instantly became gloomy and terribly cold. Lin Mian. He called the phone a few times, but there was no response from the other end. Only intermittent sounds of struggling could be heard from the receiver. He turned the steering wheel and quickly rushed to Lin Mian's community. Lin Mian was pressed heavily on the bed by the drunkard, a pair of greasy hands were groping her body, the disgusting smell of alcohol filled her nostrils, mixed with bursts of stench, she felt nauseous and vomited. The man continued his actions, trying to tear off Lin Mian's pajamas. She tilted her head and bit the man's palm hard. The man screamed in pain. He threw away the scissors and slapped her in the face. Bitch, I'm going to fuck you to death. Lin Mian's head was buzzing from the beating. She gritted her teeth, fumbled for a pair of scissors on the bed in panic, and stabbed the man fiercely. She would rather die than be abused by such a person. R. The man's abdomen was cut by her and his clothes were torn, but he seemed to be even more excited. He grabbed her hair with bloodshot eyes and pressed his smelly mouth against her. Bang. The shaky door was kicked open again. Chapter 28. Beg me, act like a spoiled child, and let me take you home. A tall and slender figure suddenly rushed in. He grabbed the man by the back of his collar and pulled him to the ground, then with a bang, he punched him in the face with his strong fist. Punch after punch, so fierce. Oh. The man was beaten so badly that he had no power to fight back. He lay on the ground groaning loudly in pain. Soon his face was covered in blood and he was almost half dead. Until the man's screams gradually weakened, Lin kicked him hard a few more times with a stern face. When he was sure that he could not get up, he stood up and checked on Lin Mian's condition. How are you? Are you hurt? Lin Mian was breathing rapidly, grabbing the quilt on the bed to wrap herself tightly, and her tears were falling uncontrollably. Shalin saw that half of her face was swollen with slap marks on it, her long hair was disheveled, her expression was dull, and her whole body was shaking uncontrollably. He walked forward, pulled back the quilt, wrapped her in the sheets, picked her up and walked out. When he reached the door, Shalin caught a glimpse of the cell phone that had fallen on the floor. He squatted down, picked it up, and threw it into her arms. Lin Mian was held by Shalin and stuffed into the car. She was unable to come to her senses for a long time. Until Shalin was about to pull the sheet off her, Lin Mian trembled violently and reflexively dodged his hand. "Let me see if you are injured," Shalin reminded. Lin Mian's emotions gradually relaxed. He stared at Shalin blankly and said in a hoarse voice, "Call the police." "Keep calling the police," Shalin said. "I've called the police. They'll be here soon. Be good and open the bed sheet so I can check your body." Lin Mian shook his head and said, "I'm not injured. I'm fine. You have such a big slap mark on your face, and you still say it's okay?" Shalin asked back coldly. Lin Mian bit her lip and said nothing. She wrapped herself tightly, curled up in the passenger seat, lowered her head and refused to let Shalin touch her. Shalin took a deep breath. He had no choice but to turn on the air conditioner and heater in the car. His hands were still stained with blood and emitted a faint fishy smell. He took out a bag of alcohol wipes from the car cabinet and wiped his hands carefully. A few minutes later, the sound of police sirens was heard downstairs, and a police car stopped with lights flashing. It was Shalin who called the police on the road. Shalin opened the car door and got out. He talked with the police outside for a while. Then several policemen came upstairs and soon came down with the drunk man. The man was taken into the police car. The police confirmed the information with Shalin and asked the victim to go to the police station to give a statement. Shalin nodded and turned back to the car. "I'll send you to take a statement first. Are you in good condition now? Can you go to the police station?" When Lin Mian heard his words, he nodded subconsciously. "Can. Okay then, fasten your seat belt," Shalin reminded her. Lin Mian silently reached out to fasten his seat belt. The police lights in front flashed as they cleared the way. Shalin's car followed behind them. On their way, Lin Mian finally calmed down, wiping her tears and still thanking him. "Thank you." If he hadn't barged in at the critical moment, the consequences for her would have been disastrous. Shalin pursed his lips and said, "You called for help yourself, so I feel embarrassed not to help you. What's there to thank you for?" Lin Mian was stunned for 2 seconds. "I clearly called the police. How did the call end up on Shalin's phone?" And she had deleted his number, so her hand slipped so accurately. "You called the police to me. It seems that you are quite good at it." Shalin said lightly, "You are lucky. You hit the right target. If it were someone else, I'm afraid you would have been." He didn't say the rest. Lin Mian shuddered with fear and wrapped himself even tighter. It took 2 hours to arrive at the police station and finish taking the statement. Because the evidence was conclusive, the drunk was temporarily detained in the detention center to wait for the result to be dealt with after he sobered up. After tossing and turning all night, Lin Mian was exhausted. After leaving the police station, a cool breeze blew over her and she shivered suddenly. Shalin then drove the car and stopped in front of her. Lin Mian opened the door and got in tacitly. The Land Rover started and slowly left the police station. "Are you going back?" Shalin asked. Lin Mian nodded. "Go back." Shalin turned the steering wheel and turned a corner on the road. "We're not going this way. It's too late. I need to go back to Bafang City. Can you take the bus back by yourself?" Lin Mian continued to nod. "Okay." Shalin changed the route and drove to Bafang City. The Land Rover slowly stopped in the garage, turned off the engine, and stopped moving. Seeing this, Lin Mian thanked him earnestly once again, then opened the car door and tried to get out. The next second, Shalin grabbed her wrist. "Going back?" he asked again. "Go back. Not scared anymore?" Shalin narrowed his eyes. Lin Mian pursed her lips, her long eyelashes trembled, and she lowered her head and said sullenly, "I'm afraid." After something like this happened, there was no way she wouldn't be afraid. Moreover, the door of the room was kicked in and it couldn't even be locked tonight. But what could she do if she was afraid? She had no choice but to go back. Will you ask for help? Shalin asked suddenly. Huh? Lin Mian didn't react. Shalin grabbed her wrist and pulled her back, and his tall and slender body moved closer, enveloping her in the unique aura of a man. Beg me, act like a spoiled child, and let me take you home. Chapter 29. Please, take me in for one night. Lin Mian was stunned for a moment. She really didn't expect Shalin to say that, and her head started buzzing. She never liked to trouble others. She would never ask for it unless others asked. She didn't want to cause trouble to others even if she was scared. What's more, this person is Shalin. She had just had a fierce and angry argument with him a few hours ago, so it was good enough that he didn't get annoyed with her. Lin Mian reacted a little late, and looked at the half-cooked man in front of her with red eyes. She moved her lips, but still said it spinelessly. Please, can you take me in for one night? She thought for a moment and added politely, if it's too inconvenient, forget it. Shalin. He had already brought her to the doorstep of his home and made it so clear, how could it not be inconvenient? With a dark face, he spat out 2 words, follow. Lin Mian wrapped the bed sheet tightly around her body, got out of the car silently and followed him. After getting out of the elevator, scan your fingerprint to enter. Shalin changed his shoes and went into the living room. Lin Mian took out a pair of disposable slippers from the shoe cabinet and put them on before walking in carefully. His home was so clean, and the lights were bright and high-end. Every inch of light seemed to be scrutinizing her from above, as if to illuminate her inside and out. Lin Mian, the bed sheet wrapped around her, and her tattered pajamas all looked as cheap as garbage. She suddenly regretted following him up. Faced with fear and inferiority, the latter seemed to make her more embarrassed. Throw away that shitty sheet of yours and take a shower. Shalin took out a bathrobe from somewhere and threw it into her arms. Lin Mian subconsciously caught it and walked towards the bathroom in the guest room. When she looked in the mirror while taking a shower, Lin Mian discovered that half of her face was swollen, with several large finger marks on it, and even her ears were red. His eyes were red, his hair was messy, and he looked extremely disheveled. It's no wonder that Shalin was willing to bring her back. After all, she now looks like a down-and-out girl who needs to be rescued. Whether it was selling eggs or being violated, he saved her once and now he saved her a second time. She seemed to owe Shalin another favor. Lin Mian took a deep breath, turned on the shower and immersed himself in the water. After taking a shower, Lin Mian came out wrapped in a bathrobe, only to find that her feet and calves were covered with bruises and a few small scratches from when she struggled with the drunk man. They were only now beginning to hurt. Come over. Shalin was sitting on the sofa. On the coffee table in front of him was a medicine box, with cotton swabs, iodine, and an ice pack next to it. Lin Mian walked over obediently and sat on the sofa. Shalin threw the ice pack into her arms, then unscrewed the iodine and applied it to her calf wound. He is a doctor, his technique is skillful and neat, and when he lowers his eyes, he appears serious and focused. Lin Mian silently picked up the ice pack and applied it to half of her face. The cool temperature offset the heat on her face. For some reason, even her ears felt a little hot. After a while, the wound was disinfected. Shalin put a few band-aids on her leg, and then closed the medicine box in an orderly manner. Thank you for tonight, Dr. Shah. Lin Mian apologized to him shamefully. What I said before was so hurtful. I didn't expect you to be willing to come and save me and take me in. I'm really sorry. I apologize to you. Shalin wiped his hands with alcohol and glanced at her. Lin Mian, whether you're apologizing or thanking me, you need to be sincere, understand? Lin Mian was stunned for a second. What sincerity? For example? He chuckled and looked at her sideways. Do it with me once. Chapter 30. Pay attention in bed. Lin Mian's head exploded with a bang. Looking at the man's superior and handsome face, her ears turned red. She didn't expect that he would say the most shocking words in the most bland tone. Do it. Shalin's calm gaze was just like the night outside the window, deep and dark, with no bottom in sight. The feeling of being invaded came up again. Lin Mian's nerves were tense, and the hairs on his back stood up. I don't want to do it. But I want to. Shalin's already deep voice became even deeper, with a hint of hoarseness. Lin Mian clenched her fingertips and moved her lips, just about to say no, but it was too late. Shalin held her arm and pulled her forward. With his other hand, he held the back of her head and lowered his head to kiss her deeply. Bar. The ice pack fell to the ground. The man's unique scent rushed towards her, splashing in her nostrils, hot and scorching, as if her skin was about to burn. Lin Mian's breath was choked, and she subconsciously tried to dodge, but the moment she turned her head, the back of her head was firmly fixed by the man's big hand. "Don't move." His voice was hoarse, but carried an irresistible command. Lin Mian's heart was beating fast. Having just been harassed by a drunk tonight, she was traumatized. Even though the man in front of her was an outstanding and handsome guy, her body and limbs still couldn't stop shaking. "Open your eyes and look at me." Shalin's low and hoarse voice gave an order in her ear, and Lin Mian was forced to open her eyes and look into that handsome face that was so delicate that it made her heart palpitate. "Do you know what the best way to eliminate fear is?" Shalin pressed his hand against her forehead and spoke word by word. "It is to cover it with another kind of stimulation." The next second, Lin Mian felt his waist tighten and his whole body was lifted up in the air. As the world turned upside down, her back sank into the soft bed. This time he was very gentle, without all that trouble. Lin Mian didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that he was intentionally trying to please her. It was a far cry from his previous 2 attacks. "Focus." Lin Mian cried out in pain when her earlobe was bitten hard, but the next moment her lips were blocked by him. She closed her eyes and resigned herself to following him into oblivion. Lin Mian slept soundly and did not suffer from insomnia at all. When she woke up the next day, the familiar ceiling and floor-to-ceiling windows came into her sight again. The scenes of last night came into her mind frame by frame, clear and hot. She knew that she had once again sunk into Bafang City. The other side of the big bed was empty, with no trace of Shalin, but the entire bed and quilt were filled with his unique scent. Lin Mian dragged his sore legs out of bed, picked up the bathrobe that had fallen on the ground, wrapped it around himself, opened the door and walked out. There was no one in the living room, only a note left. "I have something urgent to do, so I will be out for half an hour." The 2 words in the lower right corner of the note are vigorous and powerful, and the characters can be seen through the back of the paper. They are somehow similar to him. Lin Mian looked at the time. It was just past 6 o'clock, so there was still a long time before work. She simply went to the kitchen and took a look around. There were very few ingredients in the refrigerator, only a dozen or so bottles of soda neatly arranged. She thought about it, took out her phone and ordered some takeout and some ingredients. Half an hour later, when Shalin came back, he smelled a fragrance and saw a figure moving in the kitchen. There were a pile of takeout boxes on the dining table. There were a lot of things and it looked very generous. Shalin glanced at the order price and his eyes deepened. He rented a dirty, shabby little room for himself, but he was lavish in treating others to meals. A typical people-pleasing personality.